This week on the Steam Machine Podcast, to infinity and beyond. Cue the music. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Steam Machine Podcast. My name is Dalton, and joining me, as always, over the Destructo Bros.
What's up, everybody? Nate here again.
Yo, it's Willie. I'm back. Hi.
We also have a guest this week, gentlemen. Let's welcome in the man with many nicknames, the Grumpy one himself. He's got his own pro wrestling organization coming out soon. Grumpy Jeff. Jeff, how you doing, buddy?
Hello, you beautiful bastards. It's great to be back.
Good. We're glad to have you, man. We're glad to have you. How you guys been doing these past 3 weeks? Let's start with, I'm going to go north of me on my screen. So, Willie, how you been doing?
I'm sleepy.
You don't say. Word? You been playing anything interesting? Doing anything interesting? Kicking any ass? Taking any names?
Yeah, I was supposed to do a recording for between the last episode and now that I didn't do. So I guess I have like an entire month of catch-up to do now, don't I?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Let's see. What are some things? When we had a windstorm about a month ago, it took our power out. So one of the only things I could really do is play portable games on the Switch because I didn't really have any of my other electronics going on. So I started Link's Awakening DX on the Game Boy on there, and that game's really good. Like I finished about half of it, and it's really fun. It's a lot more... I thought it was going to be a lot more simple and a lot more like the 8-bit NES games, but I would say it feels a lot more like it really is Zelda 4, like it's a successor to Link to the Past. Like, a little bit simpler in terms of, graphics and gameplay, but not much. And it does a lot of cool stuff that the NES games couldn't do.
Now, Link's Awakening, that was the one that was originally the Game Boy game, correct?
Yeah, there was the Game Boy one, and then there was Link's Awakening DX, which was the Game Boy Color version that added some... Well, color, obviously. It also added like a hidden dungeon and stuff. That's the version I'm playing. Okay. And then for the Switch, there was also a remake that uses this kind of cool, kind of like clay toy looking art style that has come out fairly recently.
Yeah, it was like
that's one of the reasons I'm so...
I was going to say, it was almost chibi, too, in a way.
Yeah. It looks like toys. It makes me happy. They look like little cute toys, like mascot toys. And so I was really surprised that I thought there was a good chance that we would never get a Game Boy Online on Switch because they had just sold not only that, but also the Metroid 2 remake. And I'm like, there's no way that they're going to bring Game Boy there without giving us Link's Awakening and Metroid 2. And there's no way they're going to give us that while they're actively selling those games for full price. But I'll be damned if they didn't put both of them on there.
Yeah. Yeah. I was quite happy when I logged into my Switch the other day and was looking at the little selection. And I can't help but wonder, what else is going to come? I'm going to put money on it right now. I'll bet $1.
Oh, high roller.
Oh, yeah, you know me. And I'm going to pinch that dollar as you take it from me as I lose. But I do not think that they will ever put Pokemon games on there.
I think you're pretty right.
Probably right.
Just because the trading is going to be difficult to pull off.
Yeah.
Then again, they were willing to do some online-related updates to GoldenEye, so, maybe there's a chance.
Enough. Or maybe if they did do a Pokemon game on there, it'd be like the Pokemon trading card Game Boy game.
Well, they do have Pokemon. They do have Pokemon Snap on the Nintendo 64.
Isn't Stadium coming out as well?
Probably.
Ooh.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And do you guys remember how cool it was back in the day to play Stadium and be able to put that little thing in the back of your controller and pop that Game Boy game in there and then play it on the TV? Yep. It was like, hell yeah, this is so cool. And now we just can emulate it on whatever screen we feel like. You could probably get the original Pokemon games to run on a refrigerator that's new enough.
We get Pokemon running inside Doom. I'm sure that exists already.
Now, if you can get Doom running in Pokemon, that would be fun. You go up to the PC and you got your Pokemon storage, your item storage, Doom. I think that would be fun. But yeah, man. So
sorry, my third cat is behind me. She's over by the curtains.
How many cats you got there?
And she's the baby. She's gonna.
I know Tito and Puke.
Yeah. This is Magira.
Magira, that's right. You told us.
Yep, she's the one where her name was inspired by Megara from Hades.
Right.
Or Hercules.
It sounds like I was going to say or Megara from Hercules, yeah.
Nah. Megara from Hades, because she's a cooler character.
Yeah, fair enough.
See if I can,
I mean, yeah.
They both hot, though.
Megara and Hercules, I mean, you paint her however you want.
Yeah,
Disney.
No,
she was not a good person.
She's too dark.
That's racist.
Get a good shot.
Well, hold on. Let me see. Go ahead and continue talking. Anyway, let me see.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Anyway, Willie, what else you been up to, bud?
Let's see. Hold on, I'm really curious as to what this is gonna look like.
Yeah, no,
this is not working, bro.
Yeah, we'll say
you could see her white, but otherwise,
there's like little dainty paws. That's all we got.
I know that you and Nate been kicking some ass in some Rocket League recently.
Oh yeah, we recently did our placement matches for this new season. We got into Diamond 2/Diamond 1, so getting to Diamond last season wasn't a fluke, so that feels good.
Yeah. That's what's up.
There was a recent Doom WOD that came out a while back that's like a really cool horror themed one that I've been really enjoying as well. It's called myhouse.wad. And it starts off like when you go to the thread to download it, it acts like the story behind it is this guy found a WOD that his friend had made before he died that was just a recreation of his actual house in Doom. And this was a really popular thing for people to do back in like the 90s, was to just recreate your house in Doom. It was like one of the most popular, just first projects people would do. And so a lot of times people weren't really into it. It wasn't like, they weren't really all that special, but they were only interesting to the people that made it. But in the case of this one, you start off going into the house and, you fight a couple of low tier monsters and you find the keys and stuff and leave the house. But then when you turn around and look back inside the house, there's monsters in there again. And so when you go back in, things have changed slightly. And it keeps on building and building until like just new rooms that have suddenly appeared in the house. There's like impossible geometry out of House of Leaves at one point in the game. And it keeps on getting stranger and stranger where the game, if you enter a cheat code, the game actually knows about that and has special responses for that. If you hit ID clip and try to leave the building, for instance, you will literally clip into the actual back rooms.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it was just a really surreal psychological project that, like, it starts off looking so simple and dumb, but then, like, when the music starts sounding a little wrong, and I don't know, it's very ominous and difficult to explain. Like, it's more puzzle than anything else, really. But I didn't have the patience to finish all of it, but I got through enough of it that I was like, man, this is really cool. I recommend anyone check it out if they just wanted to see something really weird being done in the Z-Doom engine.
Oh, yeah. One thing I want to bring up before I ask anybody else, like, what's going on, like, because I want specifically, Nate and Willie, your opinions on this. They're shutting down multiverses for like 6 months to however long, and I'm just curious how you guys being two dudes that I know that played a lot of it. How do you feel about that? And do you think it's kind of odd? Because it strikes me as very fucking odd. Like, what game is in early access and then they take it out and you can't play it for 6 months? That's going to lose all its hype.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the problem with it. It already has lost a lot of its hype. Like, the player base had been dwindling as it was. But me and Willie have actually talked about this quite a bit. We think there's a little bit more behind the scenes going on, and Willie, I want you to kind of cover some of it, but like, I honestly, in my personal opinion, I think they're gonna take it out and quietly never bring it up again, and it'll never come back.
Yeah, you think that? What makes you think? What makes you guys think that?
Well, we don't think it's necessarily certain, but I mean, I think there's I don't want to go on record as predicting they're definitely going to old Yeller this game, but I do think that there's like a 20-30% chance at the minimum, and the reasoning is, so Season 2 of the open beta, which they just called Season 2, they hadn't been using the phrasing open beta since the beta started. Like, they'd been basically treating it as a full game, including selling a $100 Founders Pack item.
$100?
Yeah, it includes like a bunch of costumes and 25 character unlocks, which there aren't even 25 characters yet.
I'd have been so fucking... I'd already be mad.
Yeah.
Are you fucking serious?
Oh, yeah, dude, if I spent a good amount of money on this game, I'd be furious right now.
Yeah.
And so the season 2 was supposed to run until like February of this month. Or February of this month. That's not how time do. February this year. And then they quietly extended it out. They're saying, hey, we'll keep this going for a little while. Then this speculation behind the scenes was that they nearly had completed the characters of Legolas, Gandalf, and Godzilla. And then there were rights issues with all 3 of them. So all the work they've been doing for the last 6 months, they can't actually use now. Because there's been some kind of transfer of adaptation rights of the Tolkien estate. I don't really know what happened with Godzilla, actually. But so that's like all that they've been working
Sony
on.
own Godzilla? Isn't that...
I don't know who actually owns Toho Studios, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was some kind of weird, like, mashup of rights. Like, because even if they own the movie rights, that doesn't necessarily mean they own the video game adaptation rights.
Quick question for you, Willie. Toho, is that Touhou?
No, this is Toho Studios TOHO.
Oh, okay.
It's different.
I was going to say, I've always wondered how to pronounce that, but okay, now I still wonder.
It's pronounced the same way, but longer. It's more like Toho.
And a bottle of rum. All right. So, man, it's just so wild to me. It makes me worry about games like I paid for me and Megan to play that Disney Starlight Valley or whatever it is. I almost said Stardew Valley. But here's the fun fact that I didn't realize. That game you can pay for the early access. Eventually that game's going to come out and be free to play for everybody. But I didn't realize that at the time. But also it makes me be like, okay, well, when this game becomes free to play, am I then going to have to pay for all this stupid shit that y'all are going to try to hawk off to make money on the game? Or am I going to have some sort of quote unquote privilege because I actually paid for this game?
So,
or
there are some examples of games that have been free to play that were pay to play at first that went free to play. 2 of the big ones that I can think of off the top of my head are Fall Guys and Rocket League. I know Willie had paid for Rocket League back in the day, and I actually paid for Fall Guys before it went free to play. And both of those games, when they went free to play, gave the people that had paid for the game previously a lot of perks, like free extra costumes and stuff for your characters in Fall Guys, free cars and stuff in Rocket League, I believe. But then everything else, like now you still have to pay for anything on top of what you were given for that effort in the past.
But they at least compensate you some.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you received a whole bunch of legacy items in Rocket League. I think when Team Fortress 2 went free to play, because that was like maybe one of the first big games that went from that one model to the other. I feel like I think they give you like a very special hat or something. Which, if you don't know, in Team Fortress 2, hats are gold. Basically, if you have cool hats, you're cool, and if you don't have cool hats, you're a noob.
I mean, I can think of some games that did that as well, because like Star Wars: The Old Republic was an MMO. I mean, most of the ones I can think of are MMOs, but like, you know, that went free to play. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they did. I'm sure they gave them some of the, the currency that you have to pay for, and they were like, hey, go spend this however you'd like. I assume Elder Scrolls Online went free to play. Excuse me, it's buy to play. So you have to buy the game, but then once you do, you don't have to pay a subscription to play it.
Okay.
You can, and there are benefits to that, and that's the same way Fallout 76 is.
Okay.
But real quick qualm with Elder Scrolls Online. One of my favorite things to do in any MMO is go and farm for cool mounts. I want a cool mount. There are 0 mount drops in Elder Scrolls Online. The only mounts you can get are on the cash store. Other than you can get a horse like in the game, and then that's it. But any of the cool mounts, you can't go farm them. You have to pay for them. And I'm like, that is stupid.
I just did a little research.
Anyway,
Star Trek Online was, when it was launched, it was a purchase with a monthly subscription. Now it's a free-to-play game, but all the microtransactions just make it gets to a point where I think at level 45, the game no longer becomes beatable. It's because it's one of those you have to pay to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing that like plagues games like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was just curious what you guys thought about the.
Yeah. I feel like that's the worst of all worlds too, because the games me and Nate were bringing up, like Fall Guys, Rocket League, and Team Fortress. They're all cosmetic.
Which I don't mind. Like, I'll pay for a cosmetic upgrade if I want it, but it's not going to affect my gameplay. Like, in Brawlhalla, I bought a costume that made one of the characters look like Chun-Li, because why the hell not?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, dude. And there's like I like Smite. I don't play it often, but I do like that game because it reminds me of doing arenas back in the day in the golden age of World of Warcraft. But there's like skins in that game that are like, you can make characters look like members of Slipknot and things like that. And I would absolutely pay money for those but they don't make you better.
Yeah. Isn't Fortnite like that too, where you can buy skins like make you look like Spider-Man or something, but they don't.
Yeah, you can be like The Rock.
But they don't make you better at the game.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the stuff that's like, you can pay $10 and you get this sword that does 5,000 more damage than any sword that you can get in a drop. That's stupid. Mm-hmm. I don't even mind in MMOs when you can buy the stuff that skips your levels, because that's not going to make you any better. Like, your character is going to be a little stronger and everything, but somebody who's geared and knows what they're doing is still going to fuck you up.
Right.
As opposed to the games where you can just pay and be godly and no one can touch you because you have more money than them.
Yeah.
Sorry, messing with my camera because Magira is right next to me. I'm trying to get her, but it's just the cord's too short.
Yeah.
How many times you heard that in your life?
Hey.
So anyways, off of the multiverses thing, I was just curious what you guys thought. Nate, what have you been up to recently, my brother?
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild 3 weeks. I know last episode I did a little rant about working and stuff, and so started my new job, which has been going really well so far. It's been a great time. I've really enjoyed getting to know my coworkers and things like that. But other than that, I've just really been trying to get myself settled into the new job and being home alone or away alone a lot, because either I've been traveling or Kayla's been traveling, so it's been a lot of trying to keep myself entertained. But oh man, so last night though, I decided I wanted to clean up my little game room, like this room that I record the podcast in, and I almost made a huge mistake. So a few weeks ago, I went to the arcade with Paul and bought a bunch of not a bunch, 3 video games, a couple Sega Genesis games and a Super Nintendo game. But I never put them away or anything, so they were just kind of sitting in this little black bag in my room, and I kept intending to put them away. Apparently, at some point, I forgot about that, and I started using that bag to throw trash in. And so I ended up throwing that into the bigger trash can, and I just didn't even think about it. And then later that night, I was like, for some reason, my brain started thinking about Yakuza, and specifically Yakuza 0, and how you could play Super Hang-On in that game, and how one night I went into Yakuza just to play Super Hang-On because I felt like playing Super Hang-On. I was like, oh yeah, I bought a copy of Super Hang-On a couple weeks ago when I was out with Paul. And so I leaned over to where my games are, and I was like, where the hell is that bag? And I was like, fuck. Oh.
Yeah.
And so I immediately go run to the trash can. It's just after midnight, and I'm just like, oh, but I'll wake Kayla up, but I gotta go through this trash and see if I can find that black bag. And I found the black bag under a bunch of coffee grounds and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, oh no. And
dude, I can just picture you in just your pants, or I guess your underwear, you know what I mean? And then just a wife beater just running out of the trash can oh my God, I got a flashlight digging through.
Pretty much, man. And it was just in the trash can. I finally found that black bag. It had other trash in it too. Luckily, because I'd taken out a couple other trash cans that had gone out to the road and gone. So I'm really thankful that this wasn't one of those. So I got this one out. I got the games out, and they're fine. But that moment of a panic attack where you realize you almost threw a copy of Final Fantasy IV for the Super Nintendo away in the garbage. Because that is one of the games that was in there. It was Terminator 2 for the Sega Genesis, Super Hang-On for the Sega Genesis, and Final Fantasy 2/4 for the Super Nintendo. I was like, good God, I never would have forgiven myself had I thrown away a copy of Final Fantasy 2/4.
Oh, it's just
I would have felt guilty, man. Mo, I've done a disservice to games preservation. That is
how I legitimately felt, honestly, because it's corny as hell, but I collect all these games, and I feel like I take care of them, and that's part of me preserving something I care about's history, video games. I have so many NES games, a few Genesis, a few Super Nintendo, but like, I do look at it that way. Like, I'm preserving a part of history by collecting these games. I feel responsible for them. Something happened to them, make me feel really bad. So I was like, good God, I'm glad I found these and brought them back out, and they didn't get dumpstered.
Oh, that would have been fucking brutal, and I would have gave you a massive pile of shit for it.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't believe that I made that huge a mistake, especially because, like, if it was 2 copies of Super Mario Brothers for the NES, that's one thing, because those are a dime a dozen, but, like, Final Fantasy 2/4, I'd have felt like shit.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you fucking had that thought.
Yeah, so...
Kamrocho coming through.
Yeah, so Yakuza 0 and Super Hang-Ons.
Yakuza saves lives!
Oh, man. Is there anything else you'd like to bring up?
Nah, I think that's about it for me, man.
What about you, Jeff? What you been playing recently, my good sir?
There's a couple games I've been dabbling into. The game that we're going to be talking about today, I've dabbled in Red Dead Redemption 2 for a little bit, and that's still a S-tier game. It's fantastic.
Man, on the Patreon we were talking about procedural generation, but that game has one of the other things that's also similar to procedural generation, which is just emergent behaviors where so many systems run into each other and wacky shit happens. I just want to know, did you get any wacky stories from your last couple play sessions of RDR?
Nothing that's worth telling.
I have a couple the last time I played, and I think I might have talked about these on Yabspot or another show, but Jeff, you weren't here. So
you have definitely talked on the show about a nighttime incident where you accidentally did it in the day.
Yeah.
It might have been.
Where you were like...
Hold on, refresh my memory.
You're like setting up to do some great heist at night.
You encountered like the vampires or something.
And then just accidentally fired off my gun, and then he was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" That was just me, and that was one of those things. It didn't fail the mission. I just now had to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
2 others that jumped in my mind was that I was coming up on this lady, and she's like, "Can you please help me, sir? Oh my God, help me!" So I slow my horse down, and I'm sitting there and I'm talking to her, and she's like, "Could you help me? I need to get to such and such for some reason." And this fucking person on a carriage just comes barreling past me and just runs her over mid-sentence. Boom! She's dead. Boom. Done. This carriage fucking flips. The horses go down. Both of them are dead. Dude riding the carriage is dead. And I'm just standing here in front of this fucking massacre. And somebody comes up and it says investigating. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. So then I have to run because if they see me at this crime, they're going to think I had something to do with it. I guess because I need to go pay off some bounties or something. But like, I'm just like, what the fuck? And then this other time I'm in, there's like a real marshy area. And I come walking up.
A marsh?
It's a Randy marsh. There's this area. So I come up and there's just someone hanging from a tree. All right. They're like tied up, beaten, scars all over them. And I'm like, what in the fuck? And they have a hood over them. So I aim my pistol up because I'm going to shoot this rope to get this body down to see what's going on. And as I'm aiming up and not looking, I don't see the 2 red dots that are running towards me on the radar. And I get tackled to the ground. And it's these 2 dudes that look like, I don't know how to describe it. Like they live in the swamp. They're like savages almost. Mm. Like they're like loincloths and like war paint on them and things like that. But they're like hillbillies at the same time. I don't know how to describe it. But anyway, they tackle me.
Wrong turn, right?
They're born too young to have one of those Cajun pawn shop store shows.
Yeah, so what Cletus and Earl do?
So one of the things that you can do is if you draw your pistol and someone's near you and you hit you can bash them with your pistol. So the one guy, like they have like knives and like a primitive, one of them's got like a primitive hatchet type thing. And dude comes at me and I hit the button and instead of butting him with my gun, Arthur just straight like turns to the side, sticks the pistol right up underneath his chin and just goes boom and kills him. And I'm like, hell yeah. So then the other guy just backed up, put 3 rounds into him and dropped him. So I'm like panicking now, looking around for more of these dudes. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. Breathe. So I shoot the body down. I shoot the rope and it falls and I go and I loot it and there's a note on it and I open it up and it's like, man, I've been out here camping and I can see these. I feel like there's people watching me at night. I think they're coming for me, you know, and it was these fuckers had killed this motherfucker and hung him from the tree. Like, and he wasn't like noose hung. It was like, he was like bound and then hung by like the binding behind him. Like he was just freaking hanging there. Like it was rough. And I'm just like, it's just something that happened. just came up on it. I love that game. I'd love to play it for the show, but that's going to be another one that's like, let's take the year and play that game.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, you've been any of the other games you've been dabbling in?
I also dabbled back into American Truck Simulator. Actually, it's so. You guys know I've moved into Virginia's new home.
Congratulations.
When did I move it? Like last Friday. So when my computer was working in my home, worked perfect. Ran like a top. And in the process of moving it, I did the proper procedures, turned everything off before I unplugged it. And so I moved it, without issues, turned on my computer, everything's running fine, but games like Beam NG Drive and American Truck Simulator, the frame rate would drop. It's significant. It's just like I made no changes from the moment from my home to Virginia's home, and yet I was having frame rate issues. I mean, I finally figured it out. Basically, I had to delete Sims 4 and made maybe one other tiny change, but otherwise, I made no difference. I made no huge changes to my computer, and yet the frame rates were been restored. So,
was it a space on your hard drive issue? Because I know, like, if you start getting to the point where your drive's got like 50 gigs or less,
I still have.
It starts reading real slow.
I still have like 200-300 gigs available.
So the moral of the story, it wasn't a store.
Yeah. I mean, I have it still because it was a free-to-play game on Epic.
Yeah.
But it's just like, all right, I'll have it sit in my folder, but I'm not going to install it.
Hey there, you wonderful listeners. I have a question for you. Do you want to make a podcast? Well, Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily and then distribute it everywhere and even earn money all in one place and for free. How can you beat that? It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here is how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify, and when you want to take conversations with your fans to the next level, there are Q&A and poll options available, and those are the best way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since I've discovered Spotify for Podcasters, it has made doing my shows like the Steam Machine Podcast, Yabs Pod, and the JRPG Report much, much easier to do. Like being able to just go on there, record them, upload it, boom, it's done. I don't have to pay for a site service to host or anything like that. It's fantastic. So I highly recommend that you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started today. I just want to point out that is actually another game that very recently went free to play is The Sims 4. The base game is free to play, and you do not want to know how much all the DLC would cost you if it's not on sale. If it is on sale, it's still going to cost you an arm and a leg. But dude, not on sale? Ooh, you better be a big fan of that fucking game. Yeah, I love the Sims series, but after a certain point, it gets to the point where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get this other way. Because
there have been a million things I've heard criticism of EA for, and yet I still think that the Sims monetization scheme with DLC is one of the top 3.
Yeah, dude. And I hate to say it, the people that make Planet Coaster, Jurassic World Evolution, and those, they're the same way. I think it's Paradox or something like that. Like they put a lot of DLC into their games too. That just could be things that they just included in the game. But
I thought Paradox were the people that made the really, really nerdy war Sims.
You are absolutely right. Give me 1 second.
Like Hearts of Iron and Europa, whatever.
You are 100% right. I am thinking of Frontier Development.
Frontier.
Yeah, they. I don't know. It's just like they'll release a DLC for $12.99, and you get like one ride and a couple things, and that's it. And it's just like, man, that's a lot of money for that. and that's just for Planet Coaster as an example. But buy this new DLC. It comes with 4 new dinosaur types. It's only $14.99. Like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, dinosaurs have really long names. So if you think about you're paying by the letter, you're doing pretty good.
Oh man!
So I'm on Steam right now. I'm just looking up Planet Coaster. If you want the complete collection, $131.
Ha, Jamali!
Now let's compare that real quick for the fun of it to The Sims 4. There is no. So there are 64 DLC for The Sims 4. If you want to add all of the DLC for The Sims 4 to your cart right now with none of them on sale and purchase them, it would cost you $1,044.37.
Jesus, dude.
Jesus Christ.
That's nuts. Dude, that's like, I thought it was expensive that the Galgun DLC that just makes everybody have nudity is like $90. And if you go and read the reviews on that one, people are like, yeah, I paid for this. Do I regret it? Only afterwards. It's shit like that. Oh, it's just funny.
After that post-shmup clarity.
Yeah, the post-shmup clarity. So, you were talking about American Truck Simulator. I would like to also bring up that I have been playing some American Truck Simulator as well because I got myself a Logitech G920. Dude at work was like, yo, I got a computer and I need a hard drive. I said, yo, I have an M2 SSD that I do not have a slot for on my board. I'll sell it to you. He goes, I'll trade you the wheel that you wanted that I have for it. I was like, that's not a fair trade. Like, I should be giving you this plus some money for that wheel. Nah, man, it's all good. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. So I take it to work. We're doing the swap, and our boat, like Nick that we work with, like, are you trading a hard drive for a wheel? And he looks at Lane. He goes, that's not a fair deal, right? Yeah, I know. Me and Dalton talked about it. And he looks back at me. I'm like, I tried to tell him. Like, I don't want you to think I'm ripping him off. Like, I tried to tell him that I should give him a little more money for this, but no. So anyway, bring it home. It didn't have the connector piece that, like, because I was looking at it and I was like, wow, this plugs into like in the back where your keyboard and mouse things used to plug in on a computer. That's weird. No, it's actually a connector that goes on there that has a USB. And I was like, fuck. And so I text Lane and I was like, hey, if you find this piece that's missing, can you bring it to me? He's like, yeah, man, sure. And I started thinking to myself, I'm like, I have one of those. I've just seen it around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just like think about it, like, I've just seen this laying around somewhere. So I looked all over the fucking place. Couldn't find it. Felt really defeated. Sat back down in my chair right where I'm at. We're looking at you guys. And I looked over at my closet and went, I bet it's underneath that shit up there. And I looked at the very top of my closet and just like lifted up this pair of pants that's up there. And it was just laying there. And I went, how the fuck did I remember that? Grabbed it, plugged it into the computer. And here's what freaked me out. So I plugged the wheel in. And the first thing that it did, I plugged it in and didn't do anything. And it wouldn't recognize it. I downloaded Logitech G Hub. And as soon as I did that and opened that up and it recognized the wheel by itself turned all the way to the left, then turned all the way to the right, and then whipped around and centered. And I was like, whoa, okay. So first, of course, I'm like, American Truck Simulator, loaded up. Actually, I think I might have loaded up Euro Truck Simulator first. But then I had to map all my buttons, which was, I had to look up like, all right, what have other people done? And then I'll kind of work from there. And I got it set up comfortably. Was not expecting for the wheel itself to have haptic feedback and vibration and things. Because I'm like driving along and I hit a little bump in the road and it was like my wheel went. Whoa. I went, what the fuck? And then I'm like driving and I accidentally got a little over to the left and my wheel started going like I was riding over the things on the side of the road. And I was like, oh, this shit's so cool. And then I also learned that controller, wheel, it's the same. If you're approaching a curve and you think you can take it at 70, you can't. Because I went around and I was like, oh, this is going fine. And then all of a sudden I'm like, why is the world tilting? Boom! And I was on my side and then my truck turned over and I was like, damn. I was on a 28-hour delivery and I was 11 hours in and couldn't figure out because I'm an idiot. And I decided to just cancel the mission and then figure out how to call the tow truck when I could have just called the tow truck and continued on. But So yeah, wasted that. But
or just go back to an earlier autosave.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that either. Sometimes your boy's dumb. All right. So that's been a lot of fun. Today I loaded up Harvestella because I've been seeing Brian play so much of it recently. So I was like, man, I'm gonna give that game another play, and I'm probably gonna sink some hours into that game. Like, Harvestella is so fun. It reminds me of like if you took Harvest Moon and Ease and put them together and then added some Square Enix flair, some Squeenix on there. That's what it reminds me of, and it's been a lot of fun. I've also had a hankering for some 2D JRPGs, so I snagged. And my recent games is probably all fucked up. And oh yeah, here we go. I got the Collection of Saga, Final Fantasy Legend, which was it's like I think they're Game Boy games. I got Legend of Mana, and then I got Saga Frontier Remastered, and then I got one called Toho, and this is another one, Toho. That's how you said it was longer, like that.
You can just say Toho. People know what you
Toho Mystia's.
It's longer in Japanese. It's a single or a doubled vowel instead of a single.
Toho Mystia's Izakaya, which is a restaurant simulator where you go out and gather ingredients and then serve stuff on that. But it's based in the Toho world, so you're playing as characters from those games, things like that. Which I believe those are all shoot 'em ups, right? That's like a big genre of shoot 'em up.
The main series is shoot 'em ups, yeah. But there are also a lot of like the dude is really permissive with the licensing and lets people basically do whatever they want as long as they're not like mega commercial with it or whatever. But like, so they're like, and some of those games even get upgraded to the canon, like there are fighting games and like a Metroidvania and stuff like that.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I look forward to checking those out. I have not yet because I haven't like been like, okay, let's play a JRPG. But I wanted to like have some because I've been really craving loading into one. So I might check out one of those like Collection of Saga. Like Game Boy games aren't super long, so I'll see how they are.
Right.
I also picked up Days Gone because I've heard Dan from Factory Sealed rave about that game was really good despite some jank. And you guys know me, jank doesn't bother me all that much. Mm-hmm. And I snagged while it was on sale Lightning Returns, the Final Fantasy 13-3. Because that was the one I didn't have. So now I got all of those. I put together a wrestling promotion for Fire Pro Wrestling World. That's going to be interesting. Yeah. I got some input from the boys. And Grumpy Jeff's Pro Wrestling going to be coming soon. GJPW. Keep an eye out for it. Grumpy Jeff's Pro Wrestling Power Hour. That'll be over on the YabsPod feed. Unless it becomes more popular than the YabsPod episodes, then I'm going to make it its own thing. But the only other thing that I snagged last night was because I had some extra cash and it was on sale for stupid cheap. I got Greedfall, which is kind of like a AA RPG. You play as I believe a swashbuckler type character. So this looked interesting. Also, so the show got delayed a week, by the way. That's on me. That's my bad. I half wanted to delay it a week because I knew that Nate would be out of town and we'd be able to put a little more time into No Man's Sky. And I'm glad we did that because I believe you got to do everything that you wanted to do in the game with that time. But also I had to put down Daisy a couple weeks ago, or maybe even just a week ago now. And that was rough. And I just didn't feel like being cheery for the show. So I do apologize for the gap, but I'm sure that all of our listeners understand. And they were enjoying the Nier episode in the meantime because I've been watching that number just rise every day, which is nice.
There's nothing to apologize there, friend.
Yeah, just needed some time. The one other thing that I will touch on that Nate will be able to kind of relate to this. Okay, so you've heard the sagas of me and Nate in Forza Horizon 4, where it's like,
oh no,
that game just plays beautifully for like 30 minutes to an hour, and then we'll just freeze and crash. And we've talked about that. No need to get into that. But I got Forza Horizon 5. Now, I get paid Wednesday and the sale ends Thursday. I might pick it up again now that I know the fix to it. But for some reason, I would try to load the game. It would start to load, and I mean like 3 seconds worth, and it would crash. And I tried again. And mind you, I got the version that had all the DLC because I'm like, yeah, give me that Hot Wheels. Give me them Hot Wheels tracks and shit. I want to. That's the main reason I want Horizon 5 because I want fucking the Hot Wheels stuff. So I bought the Hot Wheels game.
Hot Wheels.
Instead. But so the it kept crashing, and then it would load a little further in and then crash, load a little further and crash, load a little further and crash. And I tried this 16 times before I said, all right, fuck it. And it loaded in on the 17th try. And I played for a while and then was like, okay. And I closed out of it, went and did something else, came back, was like, I'm going to play it again. Tried to load it up, crashed, loaded up, crashed, loaded up, crashed, loaded up, crashed. Okay, I'm returning this motherfucker. So I returned it. Then I looked up what the problem was. Because again, sometimes your boy's dumb. So.
And then he called a tow truck for his Hot Wheels.
So I looked on Google and I was like, why is this crashing? And I kept finding like all these different reasons that people were having it crash, and none of it sounded like what I was dealing with. And then I came upon a Reddit post, much like I always do, is when I go to Reddit, that's where I get my answer. It's never on any of these websites that are like, oh, here are the 5 things that could fix your crash. Have you tried restarting your computer?
Oh my God. No, if you need a technical answer for something, Reddit or Stack Overflow are the only places to look.
So
occasionally Quora. Occasionally.
I have found answers on Quora, very, very rarely, but sometimes somebody's got a nugget of knowledge on there. So I'm on Reddit and I find it, and it says, if you happen to have the Windows, and I think it's pronounced Nahimic, it's Nahimic. Nahimic. It's a sound driver thing.
That sounds like an obscure classification of SCP.
Right.
It's like one of the ones that's only used in 3 articles. It's even scarier than Apollyon.
So, they're like, if you have this, Horizon no likey this. So, if you have to go into your Control Delete Task Manager, Jesus Christ, couldn't think of that. Go into your Task Manager and actually close out that program, and then the game will run fine. So I was like, okay, how do I get rid of that? Because I use FX Sound for most of my sound stuff, so I don't really need this other stuff. Well, turns out the Nahimic thing is installed on your computer by Windows.
Isn't Nahimic where the Saiyans fought against Frieza?
I believe so, and they put that shit on your computer. And
damn.
So it's installed by Windows. It apparently it is very hard to uninstall it, and the next time you restart your computer, Windows will automatically reinstall it again. So, here's my question to you boys. Windows is Microsoft. Mm-hmm. Forza Horizon 5 is fucking Microsoft.
Yeah.
Why is this a thing? Why? Bill Gates, answer me. I need to know. Why is this a thing? It doesn't make any fucking sense. And you know what's the weird thing is I've downloaded on Game Pass, I've downloaded Forza Horizon 5 before, ran fucking fine. Why? I don't understand.
Oh, I don't understand why Forza Horizon 4 won't work with an NVIDIA card when NVIDIA is probably the most popular graphics card for PC gaming.
I want to build a PC game that doesn't work on Pentium streams. They're not called Pentiums anymore. Intel cores.
It makes me want to buy Forza Horizon 4 for Willie because he's got an AMD card and be like, dude, does this crash when you play it? Because if, like, why? Again, just why? I don't understand. Microsoft, fix your shit.
Yeah.
Everything that we talk about on this show somehow gets willed into existence. Microsoft, fix your shit.
Sony, port Gran Turismo to a PC.
And Sony, give us Gran Turismo 7. Yeah. And Steam, put a set of Corsa on sale. Thank you. I would like to get that for $7.99.
And also that one Lamborghini game from the Nintendo 64. Let's get that too.
Fuck yeah. Give us hard driving too, or whatever the fuck.
Dude, hard driving when it's not running on a 16-bit system would probably be awesome. Oh, I caught that big reach that kitty did. Hello.
That cat's like, turn this fucking AC on. It's hot up in this bitch.
It is warm right? in here.
You look like you're glistening a little.
Hello.
That's the polite way you say it when a woman is sweating.
You're glistening. You're glowing.
Thanks.
Well, boys.
I don't know why I chose to be weird. I don't mean the sexism. I'm just being a jerk.
This week.
Oh. Yeah, one more thing before we get into the episode I want to bring up. So,
yeah, please.
A couple days ago was April Fool's Day, right?
Oh, yes.
And so I love when April Fool's kind of goes this way. It's like, I feel like this is the way it should go. So Sega went on their Twitter, was like, announced a new game on Twitter that day, and it legitimately was a real game that came out. It was just kind of like their little April Fool's joke for their Sonic fans. But they put a game on Steam called The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, which ended up being this cute little mystery visual novel type thing that was a lot of fun. And it's just like, man, that's a good April Fool's prank. One of my favorites. Like, I wish more people did stuff like that other than the generic things that are horrible. Like, people like, guess who's pregnant? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Look at this product we're pretending to sell.
So, like, actually just throwing out a joke game that's actually well written and fun and kind of wholesome and good.
Yeah, I played through it too, and as someone who's not super into the whole Sonic canon, like, that was the most I've liked Rouge the Bat in a while.
I will say this actually reminded me, a buddy of mine sent me this through Facebook. This was also on April Fool's. The next Mario game they're going to release, there's going to be an option where it changes the voice to the voice actors in the Mario movie. So like Bowser will sound like Jack Black, Toad will be Keegan-Michael Key.
That's funny. Like, can we pick and choose? Can we have all those people, but just keep Charles Martinet for Mario?
I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna keep the original voice cats, but have Chris Pratt just going, "Hey, wahoo!"
Wahoo!
Well, my joke was bring back Bob Hoskins.
Oh, well, you'll have to bring him back very far.
Why don't we just bring Captain Lou?
I was gonna say Captain Lou Albano, yeah. Luigi, the fuck are you doing?
Good news for Chris Pratt haters. Apparently, there's a high mortality rate involved in being Mario. Watch your back, Charles Martinet. We care for you.
Oh man. So one other one that I can think of that Sega did, because back then it was still Sega, was they announced that the next Yakuza game was going to be turn-based.
Oh, wow.
And everybody, instead of freaking out about it, was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. You should do that. To the point that RGG Studios was like, well, fuck. All right, let's make it turn-based. And they scrapped all the combat that they had done for that game and then built Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon into the turn-based game that it is now. And now those series have split. And Yakuza is going to stay turn-based.
Just wild.
Which is just so strange to me. Or I guess it's Like a Dragon
I fell
now.
for an April Fool's... Yeah. I fell for an April Fool's joke this year, too, because I mostly slept through April Fool's Day. And so I got up on the second and felt like people wouldn't still be carrying on the joke if it was still an April Fool's joke. So Chess.com had pretended that they sold it to Grandmaster Nishigiri, who is basically kind of a meme because he always draws in all of his games. Like, he never wins, he never loses, he just plays to tie everything. And they even build up a bunch of bots on there where it's all bots that try to tie you deliberately, but it's obviously a Nishigiri dressed up as some of their other bots.
Nice.
I've always liked when I think it was Pornhub did, where like you'd be watching something and at the bottom of your screen it would just popped up like video successfully shared to Facebook or video successfully shared to Twitter, and people would just, oh my god, and go and look and be like, oh thank god, no April Fool's.
You bastards.
Yeah, I honestly I fucking hate April Fool's.
That's
for the
terrible.
most part because people are really shitty with it, but there are some golden nuggets.
Here's my opinion about April Fool's Day. If you're not the kind of person that's comfortable making jokes until it's the designated day to be a silly little fool, you're not good enough at jokes to be making April Fool's jokes.
Yeah, I did like Nippon Ichi Software put out one that they were like, we're going to be it's going to be a dating sim visual novel, which by the way, I saw like 6 or 7 different companies put out that their fucking April Fools was they were making a dating sim involving their characters. But the Disgaea one was like, it'll be coming out and then it gave a ridiculous Disgaea level amount of years.
Nice.
And then I think the other one was like there was going to be like a Nier one, and it was coming out in the year like 12,000.
Nice.
Some ridiculous. It's just things like that. I don't mind those.
We'll finish this sweet code and dating sim as soon as we finish coding all 108 paths.
Oh my goodness. That would be ridiculous. Speaking of, dude, I can't wait for that remake to come out on Steam, the Suikoden 1 and 2 remakes, because then maybe I'll finally play them.
I never got into it either, but I knew people who were really into those games back in the day because, again, they loved the fact that they had a ridiculous number of characters.
Yeah, dude, there's so many people you can recruit. But all right. Yeah, fuck April Fool's Day. Moving on. But no, I did add that Sonic game to my library, so I would like to try it at some point.
It's fun. It only took about like a little less than 2 hours. And
let me just say that I was personally happy as a friend and as a co-host of this show that you played a visual novel and didn't hate it. So that's a good thing because I got like 2 or 3 of them that I'd really like to play. I might wait till they come up and they get voted for. If they're on the list twice and they haven't been voted for, then I'll make it one of my picks. But we'll see. So we played, gentlemen, these few weeks, I would say a little game, but it's not. We played a very, very big game called No Man's Sky. So let's get some O-dubs in here, the obligatory Wikipedia bullshit. No Man's Sky is an action-adventure survival game developed and published by Hello Games. It was released worldwide for the PlayStation 4 and Windows in August of 2016 and for Xbox One in July of 2018. And for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S consoles in November of 2020. Has the PlayStation 5 seriously been out since 2020?
Yeah.
And it almost has a game.
Yeah, and it's just now becoming more readily available. And No Man's Sky also came out for the Nintendo Switch in October of 2022. And while ports for Mac OS and iPad OS are in development currently.
Man, an iPad version would be super weird.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that.
I'd imagine you can connect a controller to an iPad these days and just kind of...
That's fair, because you can connect Bluetooth, like your DS4 and stuff to your phone.
Yeah.
So the game is built around 5 pillars: exploration, survival, combat, trading, and base building. The players are free to perform within the entirety of a procedurally generated, deterministic open-world universe, which includes over 18 quintillion planets.
For those of you who don't know numbers, I believe a quintillion is a billion million? It's 1 in 18 zeros.
It's 5, yeah. I was going to say it.
So that's a billion.
It's 5 in. I know that much. Because you got quin, and then you go quad. And
yeah, but they when they started billion, that's 10 to the 9th. So trillion is 10 to the 12th. Yeah, it's 10, 1 with 18 zeros.
I'll tell you what, dog. You 10 to the 9th, I'll 10 to this 8th. How you doing?
Hey.
Through the game's procedural generation system, planets have their own ecosystems with unique forms of flora and fauna, and various alien species may engage the player in combat or trade within planetary systems. Players advance in the game by mining for resources to power and improve their equipment, buying and selling resources using credits, earned by documenting flora and fauna or trading with the aforementioned life forms, building planetary bases and expanding space fleets, or otherwise following the game's overarching plot by seeking out the mystery around the entity known as the Atlas. So, I am going to read this next paragraph, and then I actually want to split this next section up. Sean Murray, the founder of Hello Games, had wanted to create a game that captured the sense of exploration and optimism of science fiction writings and art from the 1970s and 80s. The game...
That makes a lot of sense.
The game was developed over 3 years by a small team at Hello Games with promotional and publishing help from Sony Interactive Entertainment. The game was seen as an ambitious project for a small team by the gaming media, and Murray and Hello Games drew significant attention leading it to its release. Now, this is where I ask everybody, what was your first impression? But I'm going to split this because 2 of us here, or the 4 of us, there's 2 of us that have a very, very different first impression than the other 2 of us. So I'm going to start with Jeff and I being the OGs. Because Jeff, you, much like me, you got this like release, right?
I got this very shortly after release, yes.
Okay, so yeah, I pre-ordered this game. So before I ask, because Nate and Willie came in recently, now that it's real good. Jeff, you can remember, much like I can, how bare bones this game was when it first came out.
Oh, hell yeah. I can.
So 2016... I can't even believe it was that long ago. 2016, you get the game. What was your first impression of it?
Well, let me tell you a little story, actually, before we get into me playing the game. So before I still have my PS3. I'm currently playing New Vegas, and I remember I had to go over to visit my brother. I think I need to owe him some money. Nothing serious. It's nothing shady.
Sure.
Anyway, so
I didn't think it was shady until you said that.
what's the statute of limitation?
It's this little lady. It's this big lady that stands in the harbor near Ellis Island and holds a torch. I might have misheard the question. I'm sorry.
So anyway, I went to go visit him, and I saw him actually playing No Man's Sky. And I was just watching him play for about 5 minutes, and that's all it took. I'm like, see ya. I went to the nearest Best Buy. I bought a PS4 and No Man's Sky immediately right there and then. It's just like,
so you went hard.
Yes, I did. I saw it. I'm just like, gotta have it now. So now get into my first impression. And you are absolutely right. It was at the time, it was a bare bones game. There was nothing involved. Literally, the only things you could do when I started playing was base building and exploration. Nothing else.
Yeah.
There's nothing you could do in that game that was what it is now. But
I remember vividly, like loading into that first planet and everything and telling you to go mine your resources and everything. And the first planet I loaded into immediately had some sort of storm and killed me. So I was like,
getting more sodium, Five Head.
Thanks. So I was like running around, and I eventually like loaded in because you die in that very beginning. There's no save, so you start and it generates you on another planet. So I'm running around, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like, dude, I'm on a planet that's the size of a planet. Oh, this is so cool. And then I'm running around. I'm like, man, all this looks really flat. And there's just like a couple of hills, and then I see this creature. And listen, you guys think that you saw some silly shit. Now, do you remember on that one planet that we were on, Nate and Willie, the thing that was like the giant cow, but it had the really tiny little butterfly wings that it flew? So think about every creature you see is that ridiculous. That's how it was in the beginning. Like, I would, or there would just be like a lot of those little bear creatures running around like a fucking Ewoks. Just like that was it. And you know, in the trailers and stuff, you had seen these big giant dinosaurs and these flowing rivers and grass, and that was not what it was.
No.
Why did you sound so much like Vince McMahon the way you said grass? You're like, grass!
Goddamn pal. I don't know. Maybe I should shave my mustache down to here and dye my hair jet black and look like...
Oh, yeah. So, as of yesterday, there was some news that Vince McMahon is announced, and they've confirmed it, that the parent company of UFC, Endeavor Group, is going to be merging UFC and WWE into one new company that's like a subsidiary of them. And there's a press conference, and you see Vince McMahon, and he genuinely... If you're used to Vince McMahon as he appeared on WWE and the natural direction he was aging in, he took a weird, like a huge leap to the side where he now has like a weird, lumpy, thin mustache, and he's dyed his hair all completely brown.
Dude, he looks like Snidely Whiplash. He looks like he's about to tie a lady to some
huge cartoon villain. When you send that picture, I'm like, he looks like someone that John Waters would look at the mustache and be like, oh, that's creepy. Dude.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. But yeah, so I want to say, like, and I guess I'll wait until I get everybody's thing, but I want to talk about how this game is a good example of overhype. But we'll get to that. I just wanted to plant that seed in y'all's minds so you can think about it a little bit. So they started to release updates. Like, I can have this thing pulled up right here. So I'm going to run through them. In 2016 onward, there's been the Foundation update, the Pathfinder update, the Atlas Rises update, the No Man's Sky Next, which was the Xbox release, the Exocraft rework, the Abyss, Visions, the Beyond VR update when they first put in VR in 2019, Synthesis, Bytebeat, Living Ship update, the Exomech update, Crossplay, Desolation Origins, the Halloween update, the Next Generation update, which made the graphics better, put it onto the new systems. Companions, Expeditions, Beachhead Expedition, Prisms, Frontiers, Cartographer's Expedition, Emergence Expedition, Sentinel Update, the Exobiology Expedition Update, Outlaws and the Blighted Expedition Update, Leviathan Expedition, Endurance, Polestar Expedition, Waypoint, which was the Switch release, and the Fractal and Utopia Expedition Update. That was the PSVR 2 update. Now, those are all the updates that happened before you guys came in, is what I'm getting at. Like,
no, these are actually the major updates, the ones that really change the game. Because the game basically every day gets an update just to try to fix all the little bugs,
That's fair.
Every day I'm bug fixing.
Dun, dun, dun,
But
dun, dun, dun.
it's just what always struck me was that they've always been free. This game came out, you paid for it, and everything they've released since then has been like, here you go. Sorry, the game wasn't what it was supposed to be when we released it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, because I looked up some of the updates, because a lot of the stuff that I thought was interesting beginning of game stuff. I looked up, and it's like, this was added in the Origin update. And I clicked on that, I'm like, this major update could have been released as a DLC if they were scumbags about it.
But no, they were like, we weren't able to give you the game that you wanted, so we will eventually give you the game that you wanted and more, which is what they've done. For example, back when me and Jeff first started, and after this, I promise I'll get to you guys and what you guys think. When you tried to, the ore deposits that are in the ground that you need the terrain manipulator for, which we'll get to, I'm sure, but like, you could just mine those with your mining laser.
Yep.
Like, there was no terrain manipulator at first. That was all added. And it's just wild to me. And it's, Jeff, I'm sure it is to you too. Just like loading into the game now and being like,
well,
wow.
First thing I remember is you're talking about how each planet just looked like these flat plains. There was a time when, in order for you to mine this mineral, I can't remember what it was, they looked like giant blue rectangular monoliths.
That's right. Holy shit, I forgot about that. You would find these giant, monoliths, or they would be rounded like big rocks that were just an element. It would be like emerald or something like that. And those were the ones that you start getting those too much, and the Sentinels would come up and be like, hey, what are you doing over here? Let me scan you.
You make them sound like little busybodies who are about to post about it on Nextdoor after you leave.
Well, we don't know what they sound like.
It's all suspicious.
There's still so much we don't know about the Sentinels.
Somebody comments, you're always suspicious of the Gek.
Well, they're always being suspicious.
We'll get to the Gek. I got something to say about that.
So, boys, with you coming in with what the game is now, what were your first impressions coming in?
I will take a first point on this and then let Nathan give his first impression of the game. Then I'll give my first impression of the game. But this game's release was infamous to the point where, it was absolutely a moment of schadenfreude for any of us who weren't interested in the pre-release hype to see how badly this game fell on its face when it was launched.
There was a day there was one active player on Steam.
Yeah, this game looked like it was going to die. It looked like it was going to fall on its face. And for their credit, Hello Games absolutely just white-knuckled it, put everything they could into it, and really, impressed people. It was a similar story to Fallout 76, where it launched as an absolute mockery, but eventually turned into an actual game people wanted to play.
Yeah.
So that was my first impression of the game, was not playing it, but rather hearing its reputation rise or fall and rise.
And quickly, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the first things that Hello Games was promised they would offer, the game on release, was online play. Well, listening to all those updates that Dalton mentioned, I believe that was No Man's Sky Next. That was 2 years after the game's release, when the game finally became online.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
before then, they lied about it. They straight up had said, there's totally online play. You just haven't run into anybody yet.
Yeah, and then quickly people online are like, no. We're definitely on the same planet in the same coordinates, and there's no one here. Because the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you think the multiplayer was kind of janky now. When it first came out, it was pretty fucking janky. But it was cool. So, I hopped in a world with Eric from Factory Sealed. And he stood there, and he always makes this joke where he does these. He'll be like, "Yeah, that's how we do it. Hank Fist, America." All right, Hank Fist. That's his America character is Hank Fist. So he showed up on the planet, and I used the terrain manipulator and the build thing to just spell out Hank Fist and Big Rock. And it was a cool moment, right? But I just wanted to say I got some validation with this game because when it first came out, I was so hyped. I was talking about it on the Factory Sealed group. They would bring it up how hyped they were on the episode, and they would talk about how hyped I was. And then the game came out. Like they say in the wrestling business, and then that damn bell rang. Like they were good on the mic, and then that bell had to ring because they shit in the ring.
Like they say in the wrestling business, the drizzling
shits. Yeah, it wasn't good.
Isn't that a weather
every
pattern
time they would
in No Man's Sky?
Yeah, I believe that's where you can find the creature Van Hammer.
Damn, I had to light up a 90s WCW dude. Why? He was alive. I don't know. I can't say much about
Live wire. No, okay. So, but what was I talking about? I'm sorry, it completely derailed me.
The game getting its first updates, I think. Oh yeah, and you were with the Factory Sealed boys.
So every time they would bring up that game, they would go Dalton Suda and just make a fart noise. Because they were like, No Man's Sky is Eric did like a 45-second long fart noise about No Man's Sky one time. Just like to the point where you could hear him gasping for breath when he was done. And wasn't that long ago that I was listening to an episode and Dan from the show and then we're talking about it and they were like, listen, we have to like give kudos and apologize to our listener Dalton Suter because they were like, he's always sung the praises of No Man's Sky and saw the good in the game. And sure enough, you go back to, and he's been saying lately that this game is amazing now. Give it a second chance. Well, Eric loaded it up on his PS5 and was like, this game is fucking incredible now. And I was like, yes, I would not steer you wrong, grasshoppers. And it was just so nice to hear because it's like, I want people that played it in the beginning and was like, man, this game is dog shit. Because it really kind of was.
Here's my real first impression. Yes, the game, the developers lied about a lot of things. It was one of those, oh, you'll be able to do all this stuff eventually. Here's the thing. I never found the game terrible. It just got to the point where, like, after an hour play, it's just like, this is boring.
You've seen everything.
I've seen everything. This is just boring. I'm done for the day. I'll come back to it. So the next time you play it, it's like you play for an hour, maybe two. I'm bored. So that's how it was for the first couple years.
But I saw that potential.
Yes.
In it, you know. So, okay. So now that that's out, Nate, first impressions, load up the game. I have 2 first impressions questions. Wow, that was hard to say with the dip in. 2 first impression questions for you, sir. But we'll get to the second one in a minute. So what was your first impression? Loading in. You are now in the
So
game.
I kind of have 2 experiences as first impressions of this game. The one was like, I actually bought this game well over a year ago and loaded in and started playing it by myself, right? And so I ended up on this first planet and it's starting to tell me to do all this stuff. And I didn't make it very far before I got kind of frustrated with it because the tutorial's not great, in my opinion. It's really a lot better when you have somebody that's done it before and can kind of guide you through it. So my first impression was I played it for like 15 minutes, ended up in a nuclear storm and died. And I just said, I'm over this. And you were like, play on creative mode. I was like, I don't want to play on creative mode. I want to play the video game. And if I can't play the video game, then screw it. So immediately kind of gave up on it after 15 minutes. And I was like, man, that was a big install for nothing. Ended up coming back to it when Dalton picked it for the show, and we had our little group together, me, Willie, and Dalton, all loaded in a new game to the same planet. And just having a little bit of extra guidance to kind of get me through the first little section of it made all the difference. Everything easily made a lot more sense, how to do everything, what the buttons on controller were. And it was a really good experience that time because like finding the resources I needed didn't seem like as daunting or intimidating at this point, and it looked great. It was a gorgeous game. Just trying to figure out how to get to everything and do everything initially was extremely hard.
You are correct. The tutorial for this game, it tells you what to do. It just doesn't show you where these materials are.
It tells you what to do. It doesn't tell you how to do.
Yeah, so it really helped having Dalton around because, like, we would be like, okay, we need ferrite dust. What does that look like? And he'd be like, okay, you see these little rocks that are kind of have a little greenish tinge to them, and they're kind of column shaped. And we'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll get those.
Yeah. And I was glad I was able to do that for you guys because I know that game can be fucking overwhelming. You know, because it tells you to use your analysis visor. And you try to do that, and it's like, hey, your analysis visor is broken. Go fix it. Well, how do I fix it? You need this, this, and that. Where do I get that?
You gotta find it.
You gotta craft it.
Yeah. Well, how do I craft? Yeah. And it was funny because Willie, I think it was you. And I don't want to step on your. Hopefully, I'm not stepping on your. What's something you're going to bring up? You said that you started a second character, and what took me, you, and Nate 2 hours, just because we were going through slowly and kind of teaching. I was teaching everything to you guys. You said you did it in like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
yeah, and it's just like, and I was happy to hear that because that means I did a good job, like trying to show you guys the ropes, and obviously I did. Nate beat the fucker before I did.
Also, when you know what you're doing, it's a lot easier to do those things, but like the lack of decent tutorials on how to do the things is kind of a present issue in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would also say that means a good game to recommend jumping in with a friend that's a little bit more knowledgeable, but isn't like going to try to speed run you through the start of the game like some people do when I'm trying to play like survival-y games. Like, some people are just like, okay, I've already built us a base, I've already done, like, what am I supposed to do?
Just hang out.
Go get iron.
Play the
and I'm
game.
like, I want to learn how to play the game.
That's been an issue I've had in a lot of group games. Valheim.
Yeah.
You don't say.
Basically, any game with survival and crafting elements, that seems to be a big problem, where if you're a new player, you get left behind so easily. I don't want you to give me the better sword. I want to know how to get a better sword.
Yeah. And I listen.
Teach a man to sword.
I'm 100% guilty of being like, let me give you things, but usually it's because it's like, let me give you these, and I will also teach you how to get them. But let me help you a little bit as well. It's like I'd give you guys things that would sell for some money. It's like, here's how you also go get them, like the core, the larval cores or whatever they were. You know, it was like
that was a big part of our early game profiteering, was definitely hunting the larval cores of the whispering eggs.
For sure. And let me tell you, that's way easier when it was a group of us, because y'all would pull some aggro, and then it would just make it easier. Like, let me just run around and get all of them real quick. You guys shoot. Yeah. And then we'll distribute loot.
But the thing is, I got super comfortable doing it by myself too.
Yeah. And eventually you get to the point where you just run circles around that place, gather them all up, and head out before you even get hit by one of those things.
Grab all the eggs, get in the ship, and go.
But God forbid you're on a planet with low gravity and one of those things hits you with a headbutt, because you're going a mile and a half away.
Looks like Team Rocket's blasting off again.
But yeah, I would like to really, and maybe I'll pick it one day when I need to actually get. I don't know if I have the version of it. I might, but I would like to play Don't Starve together with you guys.
Yeah, that's another game that the person that wanted to show me the game ran through everything and didn't teach me anything, and that's actually one I was specifically frustrated with because of that fact.
Lucky for you, I've played some Don't Starve, and I still really can't tell you how to do much. So like, I can show you the basics, and then we're going to be all learning together after that.
So first impressions, still, Willie, what were yours then?
So we all ended up joining one file together. Unlike Nate, I didn't even have a first attempt because I literally got the game for the show. Or I was bought the game for the show, rather. Thank you.
Patreon.
And thank you, Patreon. You guys absolutely make this work out for us, so appreciate that a ton. But my first impression was I felt... Okay, this is going to sound a little bit weird, but I was under the impression, because of what I knew about the game, that it was going to be a much emptier universe than it actually was. Like, I didn't expect to meet other NPC characters and stuff as early as I did. I didn't expect every planet to be habitable and atmosphere and all that. I kind of thought it was going to be a much more dark and empty and lonely universe. So I was kind of glad when the game's plot trailhead was basically like, yeah, there's other people out there. And then we got up to a space station right away, and it's like, oh, hey, there's just a ton of dudes here. Awesome. Because when it first started off, you're on that first planet, and you're picking up knowledge stones and stuff. You're like, am I learning an ancient language of a dead species? No, there's just some robot people that are up on the space station right now. You can go talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Corvax. Now, being somebody who had played the game, one of my favorite moments with you guys, hold on, let me get this white screen off so I'm not blinding you guys. One of my favorite things was when you guys, when we first made it off the planet and we're into space, and seeing y'all's reaction to being like, whoa, this is so cool. Like, let's go visit these other planets and check this out, yada, yada, yada. Well, in my mind, I'm like, I cannot wait for them to see the galaxy map. But I didn't bring it up. I'm just like, okay, so we kept going, and then we finally got to the point where everybody got their thing and we could warp. And I was like, all right, everybody, you hit the down pad, open up the galaxy map. And when that opened up and hearing y'all be like, whoa, again, it was just so satisfying to me, because I was like, you see all that? We can go to any of those you want as long as we have the drive for it.
And that's just the starting galaxy.
And that's just the beginning. And to jump ahead, because now you mentioned that, at the end, when you get to the certain point, some things happen. Won't quite explain what goes on story-wise, but like some things happen, and you kind of get shifted into another space. And me and Nate ended up in 2 different places. I believe Jeff and I are in the same place.
Yeah.
On different. You're on PS4 and I'm on PC, but still, I forget what mine's called. It's the something dimension. It's like a different dimension.
It begins with an H. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, it does. It begins with an H. It's like Hildeberg or something like that. But where did you end up, Nate? What
the Icentum Galaxy.
Icentum Galaxy. I've never even heard of that. It's wild to me because I always thought the game just had Euclid. And I figured, okay, it's a Euclid. It's not going to go to a Keter. We'll be fine. But yeah, that was a joke for Willie.
too many SP jokes in this one.
Hilbert.
We're gonna have to pull it.
Hilbert Demet.
Hilbert, that's right. Hilbert, and right next door to Dilbert, which is where everybody's just wearing weird clothes and cartoon. That's the next dimension over. But and Hilbert, I haven't explored too much yet. But it's interesting. Like everything's got this purple hue in the galaxy map instead of like the light in the middle that I'm going towards is like red instead of the glowing yellowish white that I'm so used to.
Mine's green.
Oh, it's just fucking wild. There's so much to the game. And now I'm like, okay, well now I gotta go, what's at this center? Is it just gonna reset me again? What the fuck?
That's kind of what I get. So, I think it's just gonna be a continuous loop.
Yeah. Which leads me to like, I guess there's no end per se. I guess we can cover that later.
I mean, I think there's an end, I think, possibly.
The story, at least.
It's a very loose story with what's involved, what's called the Atlas. But even then, I think when I went to the new galaxy, it started up again. So when I was in the first galaxy, which is called the Euclid, you could do the Atlas missions, and then all of a sudden it's just like, that's it. You've done it.
Yeah.
And it gives you an option. I won't spoil it for you guys. But once I went to the new galaxy, once I hit the center, all of a sudden the Atlas missions were back. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it just resets.
Now, I have a question for you guys. How did you feel about the writing in this game? Because I always describe it as you're either going to think it's really good or you're going to think this game smells its own farts. So I'm curious, let's start with Willie. What did you think about the writing in this game?
I'll be the first one to say I'm the only one that didn't play the game to an ending. So that's definitely on me. But I enjoyed what I got to of the plot, actually. There were some really, the game really does a good job of alternating between, a narrative focus and a just, hey, you're in your universe building your bases and all that type focus, to where when it actually hits you with a plot point, you're like, oh shit. And there were a few really good oh shit moments, in my opinion.
Yeah, honestly, knowing where you got to the game, you're not far from being able to finish it. It's just getting the gumption to want to finish it, which took me a while too. When I was at your point, Willie, I just was like, I don't want to push the story anymore. I'm going to go mess with my settlement and find new planets, because I had this mission set out for myself during this game, because I'd seen a screenshot of it that there were turtles in the game, and I was like, I have to find a turtle. I didn't until after I quote unquote beat the game. In the next galaxy, I finally found a turtle. But there's just so many things that you want to do and see for yourself in the game that and not knowing when you get to the ending if you're going to be able to still do those things kind of throws you for a loop. I just had to push myself to the point where I wanted to do that.
Yeah, and I can get that because you get distracted by doing so many other things. You're like, well, that can wait. Well, that can wait.
One of the main things is because you get a sense that something's going to happen to the galaxy you're on. You're going to something's going to happen, right? And you're like, I've put so much work into this settlement, because you can get a settlement that you become the overseer of. And I was like, I really don't want to lose my settlement because I finally got it profitable and it's looking good. And I was like really worried about losing that. And I know you had something similar where you didn't want to lose in your galaxy, Dalton. And
yeah, I built Daisy's Tower, which was the tallest thing I could possibly build. Like, I got to the point where it literally told me, like, you can't build any higher. It's too far away from your base computer. So. Which... Quick brag. I never got you guys to come visit it. I wanted to, but like I did put 3 landing pads at the very top to make it easy for everybody to just get up to the very top.
Nice.
It is, I believe, it was a 41-second free fall before you hit the ground.
That's
on the top
amazing. And yeah, and so like when I finally realized I beat the game and did that, I messaged Dalton. I was like, "Hey, when you beat the game, you can still go back to your old stuff." It's like, because I knew he was worried about that.
And at that point, I immediately went and beat the game. Which, by the way, I thought I just had to go find an Atlas station to trigger that. It turns out I went to a bunch of Atlas stations. Oh, excuse me. And I kept learning a bunch of words. Like, I ended up getting Babelfish because in the Atlas stations, there are these glowing orbs that you can run over, and some of them will give you Atlas words. So I ended up finishing the Atlas storyline through, which I won't reveal. The item they give you at the very end is very fucking helpful, but I won't reveal what it is. But it's very helpful. But it wasn't what I was trying to do, and I was like, God damn it, how the fuck? So I was like, how am I going to get to the center? How am I going to do this? I tell you how I did it. I went to Reddit and I looked up portals. Mm-hmm. And I looked up, somebody give me a planet with a portal that is right next to the center. So that way I can just pop to the center and then move to the next and see what's going on. So I went through the portal, which took me a couple hours to get the stuff that I needed to go through the portal to get all the glyphs, because I had to go between galaxy to galaxy, or not galaxy, excuse me.
Still star system.
And,
star system.
Star system?
Yeah, thank you. Star system to star system. And go into the space station and hope that I would run into a traveler in the space station. Because you talk to the traveler, they talk to you. And then you talk to them again, and you give them some nanites, and they tell you where their grave is at. And you go and find their grave, and it gives you a glyph. And there are 16 glyphs that you have to gather. So I had to do that. So it took me like a good few hours.
Yeah, you did this the hard way.
And then I finally...
Oh, geez, I only have like 2 glyphs.
Yeah, that's because when I got the offer, we'll call it, I declined and said no. Because I didn't want to lose everything, so I just said no. And it wouldn't let me get back to that. So I was like, okay, let me. So I found my way, made my way all the way. So what was cool, though, is when I come through the portal, there are message boxes everywhere. And it just starts popping up messages on the screen. Because it's like when you're near one, it just reads it out to you. And the first one that came up was finger butthole. And I just...
The Souls players are everywhere. I love it.
Fuck up. And the next one was like, thank you, Hello Games, for this amazing ride. And then the date was like 2018.
Wow.
And like things like that. And I was just like, man, this is so cool. So I'm running through like a graveyard of these messages. And then I summoned my ship down after I had my fill of reading them. And I flew up and opened the galaxy map. And I had to fly in my freighter, because my freighter is the only thing that could warp that far. Because from the planet that I was at to the center of the galaxy was almost 3,000 light years. And my freighter can go 2,987, I think, or something like that. So I went to the couple planets around, or the star systems around, just to see if there was anything cool. There wasn't. So then it's just lots of bases. Yeah. So I went to the center, and the ending happened. And then you know, now I'm in the Hilbert dimension. So that was the way that I went about it. I know you both did the Atlas. I know, Jeff, you did the center. Nate, you did the Atlas path. Now, Willie, I'm curious for you. What do you think that you would do? Would you try to get to the center? You think you'll do the storyline ending?
I was headed towards the center.
Okay.
That was definitely where my first instinct was, but I don't know for sure what I'm going to do.
No.
Right. So
I did do the Atlas path. I've done both, and I actually completed the Atlas path, and I'll say I accepted the offer. And I went to a different galaxy. And I think I went to the same one you went to at one point, Nate. It was the Icentum. And I'm just like, okay, you know, it's fine, whatever. I'll get to the center, because I read that there's supposed to be like there's supposed to be like a system like towards the center. It's just like, this is where everyone congregates. This is where they build their bases and whatnot. The hub, the central hub, and I made it to the center of that galaxy, but I never found it. So I'm thinking, shit, it must be in the first galaxy. So I actually took a teleporter to one of my bases back in the first galaxy. And that's how, and of course, at that point, I ended up like 50,000 light years from the center. It's like, what? Doesn't matter. I'm back in the first galaxy. Let's start heading back go towards the center of this one.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would really like to find the hub, too. That was one thing that I did keep an eye out for. I never saw what I would consider to be the hub, though. I will tell you, though, that at least 4 or 5 of the star systems that are around the center are called Taco. They're just called Taco. I don't know
I've
why.
encountered one of them.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's just like, they're just called Taco. So... one thing that I'm curious, because I don't want to go too deep into the story, other than I think that the story is very deep and it's very
existential.
good, and I think you should. Yeah, it'll make you question some things for sure. It's good though. I mean, I thought it was good at least. I'm curious. Did you guys have any favorite? Do you have any flavors? Did you have any favorite planet types that you came across?
Actually, I have a funny story with the heat fire planets. So this was back in 2016. I was maybe 1 month into my first playthrough of the game, and at the time, in order for you to launch your ship or refill your launch thrusters, you need plutonium. Well, plutonium was a very rare thing to find, and unfortunately, when I landed on this heat planet, it's an extreme heat planet. I landed and I did not realize I ran out of fuel for the thrusters, and I had 0 plutonium. So I had to spend the next 3 hours, doing everything I can to try to find plutonium, just because I would try to go, I would try to go a certain distance, but because it was so hot, my shield would only last maybe a minute and a half, and then I would die. So 3 hours of just trying to gain enough plutonium to get off that planet. I thought I was going to have to reset the game, but I was like, the game, I think, I finally found enough to get off. But if I were to choose my favorite planets, it would probably just be ice. Just because they environment-wise, they're stunning. It's just beautiful.
Very pretty.
Yeah. Everything's very pretty.
Yeah, I built my first base. Well, I guess not my first. My first base was on the same planet as Dalton Willie. But I built my second base just for me on an ice planet and named the planet Schwarzenegger area. Nice to meet you. And that's where I really did a lot of my home base building. That was one of my favorite places I found. It was like in a pirate-controlled star system. So like building my base there made it so that I could warp in anytime I wanted to into that system, because it wasn't restricted since I had a base, so that was pretty cool. And just I like doing the pirate missions, like smuggling things to just people on random planets and having to watch out for the sentinels with all the stuff, illegal goods in my thing. I thought that was really fun. Another planet types that I really liked the ones that were more chill. Like there were some that's all called like Rainy Planet or Green Planet, things like that. And then there was one I think was called Flourishing Planet. And when I landed on that one, I think that's the one where I took photos of and posted them into the Discord screenshots area, where I was just me riding a giant dragonfly.
Yeah.
Just the ones that had because that's the one of the things that I spent most of my time was doing is fauna hunting. So I would land on every planet and try to find the coolest fauna I could find on every planet.
Yeah, I love finding new creatures, dude, because they're always so cool looking, or they just look silly.
Well, one of the funniest moments ever I probably laughed for a whole minute, was I made a companion with like a butterfly, and I just like, can I ride this butterfly? And next thing I know, yes, I am. So like, what does this look like in the third person? And here I am, your creature is, is a good size, maybe 6 foot, maybe 250 pounds. It's a sizable character. And I'm riding on this little tiny butterfly. I'm just like, put my controller down, and I laughed for a whole minute. I think I sent it on Discord, and it's just like, this was the funniest thing I've ever seen in the game in a while.
Yeah. I love the creatures, like, 'cause I ended up adopting 3 pets during my playthrough. I would have adopted the turtle, but it wouldn't let me, because apparently you can't adopt, like, the burrowing type, and the turtle, like, living halfway in the ground, half out. But I adopted 3. One was this little 2-legged goat guy I found on Schwarzenegger. And then I found this, one of the little bear guys, except for he was enormous. He was, like, 12 feet tall and just... super wide. He had like scales. He kind of reminded me of a turtle bear, so I named him Turtle Bear and took him around with me. And then I found this one planet, and this is the only time that I saw anything like this, that the creatures were robots. So I have this creature that looks like a robotic deer that when you feed it, you have to feed it ion batteries.
Huh. Oh, that's cool. Huh. That's real cool. That reminds me of an Ark where you can come across like cybernetic dinosaurs.
Nice.
So fun fact, in No Man's Sky, originally you couldn't have pets. You couldn't feed you could feed creatures, they would just take you to like a buried item or something like that. Also, when No Man's Sky first came out, it was a first person only game.
Yep.
Third person was added later. Also, my mind blanked on the other one. Doesn't matter. Anyway, it's just like there's a lot of things that just like weren't in the game in the beginning that just it blows my mind that they just get added, and you don't think about it until you start talking about it. So Willie, we're talking about favorite planet types. Did you have a favorite planet type that you landed on? I have a list of the different kinds of biomes and stuff that I'm going to talk about here in a second, but
no, I just kind of liked changing it up and saying a lot of different things. Like, oh, you know what? Actually, I did like visiting the worlds that had a high anomaly level. Like, those were always really weird with, like, the strange bubbles coming up from the ground and the weird, like, strange rocks and flora and all that. Like, a lot of them didn't have any walking life on them, but the ones that did were really
one
strange.
planet that I actually found that turtle on finally was not one where I expected to. I think it was called a desert planet, and, like, it's not a fun planet to be on for the most part, but I've built a base there so I can visit my turtles at any time. But, like... at night, it drops below 200 degrees, and in the day, it goes above 200 degrees.
Yep.
Sheesh.
That's a hell of a difference.
But I have a base there, so if you guys want to visit, I can hook you up.
Hell yeah. I always prefer like the lush planets.
Yeah.
Which would be, the overgrown ones, and then the grainy. So the different types of planet biomes you got frozen, toxic, radioactive, lush, barren, scorched, dead, marsh, and volcanic. But then you also have the mega exotic planets, which are red mega exotic, green mega exotic, blue mega exotic, and other.
I don't think I've seen mega exotic.
I believe that you might have. So there's some examples. Frozen. Some examples of the different biomes you might have run into. Frozen, icebound, Arctic, glacial, sub-zero, icy, those types. Toxic would have been toxic, poisonous, noxious, corrosive, acidic, caustic. There's a bunch of them. Now, all these also have the infested versions, which would be like the icy abhorrence or the caustic nightmare, things like that. Those are the infested planets. Those are the ones you're going to find the eggs on and things like that. So you got radioactive, you had irradiated, radioactive, contaminated, lush, rainy, verdant, tropical, viridescent, paradise, overgrown, flourishing, bountiful, all the things that make it sound interesting. So, and a fun fact too, in each of the biomes, there are things that are always found. Like in lush biomes, you will always find paranithium, nitrogen, star bulbs, and impulse beams.
Okay.
On scorched planets, you will always find phosphorus, sulfurine, selenium, and fire.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed, like, that made me happy and didn't mind going on those planets was, like, I had, like, a heat shield built into my exosuit, so all I had to do was make sure it was loaded with phosphorus. So if I went into one of those hot planets, I would just make sure I landed near a phosphorus deposit, mine that, and then I could just keep loading up with phosphorus so I didn't have to worry about dying on that planet.
Oh, yeah. So the mega exotic planets. These are the ones I was going to focus on a little bit. For the different biomes for the red mega exotic, planetary anomaly, redacted,
Okay.
stellar corruption detected, chromatic fog, lost red, crimson, vermilion globe, wine dark, which is one of my favorites, and blood. And then the green mega exotics, you also had planetary anomaly, redacted, vile anomaly, toxic anomaly, doomed jade, which I never came across a doomed jade. I would definitely would have landed on
Sounds
it.
awesome.
That's cool.
Deathly
That's
green
the one
anomaly.
I found that I sent pictures of.
So then you got the blue mega exotics were among the ones that were the normal in the beginning. You had lost blue, harsh blue globe, frozen anomaly, azure, cerulean, and ultramarine. Now, the other mega exotics, there are two. There's monochrome, which is the ones where you would fly in and everything turned black and white.
Yeah, those.
And then there's
neat.
Forsaken.
Yeah, okay.
And the Forsaken ones. And I believe those are the ones when you would fly in and it was almost just like, I don't know. There were some planets where you'd fly in and it was like everything's just real red or everything's kind of yellowish, like everything's got a green hue to it. It was very strange. But then there were the ones, the monochrome ones where you flew in and all of a sudden you were steamboat coming in there. So there are so many different types of planets that you can find. They do have a lot of similarities. Like after you've seen, say, 100 planets, you're going to have a good idea of what the planets you're landing on are going to look like. But there's always things to discover. Like I wound up in a cave on a planet and I ended up running around in this underground cave for like 45 minutes and never found the end of it. I ended up just shooting my way out.
That's what I did in caves all the time. I was just like aim upwards with my terrain manipulator and just blast a hole.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. And it's just like, I really liked that. This game is perfect if you just feel like going and exploring for a while and just seeing what you can find.
One thing I love that they added was I believe in the derelict. When was that released? I believe it was called Derelict. I don't know, but that's the one where you can come across abandoned haunted ships, freighters.
Oh, the derelict freighters. That was in the Desolation.
Desolation. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I did towards the very end of me playing it before recording for the show was I did a derelict freighter, and I'll be real honest. Outside of Phasmophobia, best horror game I've played for the show.
Dude, nice. The atmosphere in there is very, very...
It's like what I would imagine like an Aliens horror game should be like, kind of, you know? And like, because when you walk in there, there's these things, I can't remember what they were called, but like nests that like, it'll warn you that the nest is rocking. It means it might cause an infestation and all the creatures inside the nest will burst out and you have to fight them. It's like you had to walk and stop. And the whole time it's in a freezing atmosphere. So you have to keep making sure you turn on the heaters while you're in there so you don't freeze to death. It's just so much. Those were really cool. I like that a lot. I only did it once, but I enjoyed it. It didn't pay off for me because it cost me 5 million units to get the location for one, and I think I made 4 million units from it, so I lost 1 million units doing it. But it's not about the money. It's about the experience.
It's a fun experience, and there's so many ways to make money in that game.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm curious about, did any of the three of you... Have you run into any of the just anomalies in space? Like you'd be flying along and it'll be like, hey, back out a pulse drive. And then you back out and there's like a half destroyed freighter just floating there.
One of the cool ones that I found was there was like a giant fossilized, looked like a skull that just said, when you stopped, it was like King of the Deep.
Whoa.
That's badass. Awesome. I haven't seen that. It was
just this giant fossilized skull that looks like it came from like, bigger than any whale that exists on Earth. Like it looks like a giant like cetacean type skull. And then when I flew into the middle of the mouth, it gave me like a thing of extremely rare old ancient bones that I could sell for like almost 1 million units.
That's awesome.
That's fucking sick, dude. I love that.
I would back out sometimes, and I would, like I said, I saw like half broken freighters and things like that. But then I saw something that was like, it was like this giant set of like 4 rings that were rotating. You know how like rings they do the rotating thing and they were doing that and it was glowing gold and it was super chill and I just wanted to fly through the rings and it wouldn't let me, but I was just really wanted to fly through them. But that was really cool. I also came across the best way I can describe it is it looked like a jellyfish.
Yeah, I saw one of those.
I've seen a jellyfish.
I believe that there's also flying whales that you can come across, but I never saw one. I just thought that was a cool addition. That's something else that they've added over the years. It's just things that you can find in space. I've always, since the update came out, I don't remember which update it was, but I finally got a living ship, which is like you had this whole fucking process. Took me like a week because it was one of those things where you do your quest and then at the end of the quest, it's like, all right, now you have to wait 23 real hours and then come back and do it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, it is what it is. I'm used to those kinds of mechanics in certain games, so I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I just fucked off and did other stuff with you guys for a while, and then would come back the next day and continue it on. And eventually, I got my living ship, and it was super cool. Other than, so you can't install your normal technologies onto it. You have to come across technologies that are also living sort of things that you can then like surgically install into the ship.
Gosh, it's like a process.
It's just different. So it's a little bit harder. So it's like, it's really cool. But then like when I'm going out and I want to go farm and I need all of my storage slots and stuff, I'm switching over to one of my normal ships. You know,
one thing we should mention, there are different alien races in this game. There are.
Yes.
If you want to talk about them for a minute, because you got the Gek,
yeah, sure, the
Vy'keen, and the Korvax. And
now let's describe each of them real quick. Gek, would you say like little lizard frog type people?
Yes.
Like that's what
like
they
little slippy toads.
Yeah, they're very mercantile in nature. Like almost all their attempts to talk to you are like, friend, would you like to make a trade?
Yeah, they're very much into trading. Korvax, just think of Daft Punk. That's what the Korvax look like.
Very scientific.
Yeah, they're robot people. I think that they're supposed to be part of like a almost Borg collective like thing called the Convergence.
Like a hive mind type. Yeah.
Yeah, hive mind. Yeah, that's
and then the last one is the Vy'keen, which are basically space orcs, and they're just known for being the best warriors. And I think you mentioned that this was something that they brought on in later updates. It's where you could customize your character to look like the different space races.
That was the one I couldn't remember earlier. Thank you. Yes,
the Traveler.
The fact that you couldn't change the way you look.
If you've been on the Discord and looked at any of my screenshots, you'll see my giant, fat, adorable space orc that I've been playing as through the game.
Yeah.
If you guys permit me, I would like to read this paragraph. It's a history that focuses on all three, but there is a darkness to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it focuses on the Gek mostly, but it's Gek history, as read from the monoliths, plaques, and ruins, is primarily the history of what the Gek call the first spawn, who are responsible for the above structures built as their legacy. The first spawn of the Gek were brutish in nature and focused on power and strength. First off, that's not the Gek we see in the game. They're very friendly. It's like they're merchants. They're very happy. It's like, oh, what a sweet smell! What a pleasant smell! You know, they get up, and yet in their early days, the first spawn spread their influence with war, weeding out what they considered weak or unfit Gek. And the only reason their spread stopped was because of the Sentinels. And during the once the Sentinels became an obstacle of Gek expansion, the first spawn retreated. During the Sentinel occupation, the first spawn bred, biding their time, increasing their numbers. This waiting game paid off when the Vy'keen attempted an invasion. But this is the one thing that really I find very fascinating. I would never thought the Gek were capable of this. Basically, in the very beginning, the Gek took over Korvax Prime, their homeworld, and enslaved them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole overarching beat in the game. I think it might have been on the Atlas Path where you learn the outcome of that and how that was handled, and it is fucking intense.
And you can still see the lingering side effects of it, like with how much the Vy'keen hate the Gek still.
Yeah.
Yeah, like legitimately hate them it's like it's born into them to hate.
And it's mostly because of how they treated the Korvax. So you wouldn't think that the Viking and the Korvax would be the buddy ones, but they're kind of more friendly with each other than either one are with the Gek.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Have we defined the Sentinels yet? Because if not, it's kind of like a robotic life. I was just gonna say it's also another kind of robotic life form type thing that you don't speak to them ever, as far as I know, unless there's some plot I haven't got to yet. But they're basically just like protectors of the planets or whatever, and it's kind of implied that they've got a lot of backstory involved with them too. Like some of the species hate them, some of them are.
It seems like pretty clear that they're involved in some way with the Atlas itself, but basically, like the Sentinels are the space cops. None of us like them.
Yeah, they're
kind of a galactic immune system.
Yeah, like if you were to look at like how they act, it's almost like an antivirus in a way. It's like if something's there and fucking something up, they show up to try to like fix it.
Like they'll catch you if you mine out too much like very, very high value stuff, or
if you go to
if you just show up on a planet that they're particularly fond of,
or you accidentally loot a Gravitino ball.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden,
just that one item automatically summons 2 stars worth of them. And when we say Space Cops too, it has a star system that's very reminiscent of the GTA style system.
Very. It starts off just sending some regular sentinels at you, which kind of remind me of a combination of the little thing that follows you in Nier and
Wheatley is a good description.
Wheatley, or I was thinking of Guilty Spark and Halo.
They really remind me of the little floaty, crummy gun droids from like the Hoth planet in Star Wars Empire Strikes Back.
I feel like a lot of their designs for the Sentinels were designed off Star Wars stuff, because you get into the higher levels. Well, they start sending robotic dogs at you, which just makes me think of Black Mirror. But it's when they start sending the AT-AT looking things at you.
Yeah. The walkers.
That I'm just like,
even freighters look like Star Destroyers.
Giant walkers.
Yeah, and I will say, I would much rather run into land-based Sentinels any day than space-based Sentinels.
Dude.
Yeah, I think the trick to avoiding the Sentinels is to just stay on the planet and physically hide. Like, trying to go to space to avoid them is terrible unless you're pretty quick on the draw to go to Pulse Engine and then go to Warp Drive. Or a space station,
I had a moment of brilliance. I thought it was a moment of brilliance. I'm sure both of y'all are going to be like, yeah, of course, that's what I did the whole time, you fucking dummy. When the Sentinels were coming after me, I would burrow super down far. But then I would turn around and with the create, I would seal where I just came from. So it was like, now I'm just in this tomb.
You don't even have to do that. They suck at hide and seek, dude.
Oh, well, I would seal it and be like, okay, now they legitimately can't get me.
One thing I will...
You're doing the Minecraft strat, trying to avoid a creeper.
One thing I will say, I did end up playing for like 30 minutes in VR as well. Yeah.
That's my second person question for you. Thank you for bringing it back around.
Well, it was fine. I think I needed to play with settings a little bit more, because it has that thing that, like, when I first started Skyrim in VR too, like, it did the same thing where, like, it didn't give you like a controller to walk with. You kind of just like aimed where you wanted to go and it would warp you there, and I don't really like traveling via warp in VR. It kind of really is immersion breaking to me, so that kind of sucked. But like everything, I was surprised at how well it ran. Like, I was able to look at everything, look around and be like, whoa, what is all this? It's crazy. Because like when you get in the ship itself, you can look around you and like look out the windows from the different angles, see like your ship's wings out to the side. It was just pretty crazy. So walking around on land was fine. I need to see if there's a setting to let me enable to where I can walk instead of teleport. But the thing with riding in the ship, I found very difficult, because what it wants you to do is like grab things in the ship to control it. So like you're steering with kind of like a joystick kind of thing, but you don't have a real life joystick. So you're kind of like trying to make it feel like you don't have any real haptic feedback going on. Maybe a better VR rig has something like that that'll help with that, but not from my experience. And then also controlling like your speed with the other hand back and forth. It just felt bad to me. It was really hard to control just because like that lack of haptic feedback you get with a controller or a flight setup or something like that. I didn't really enjoy flying in VR at all. Other than being able to look around was really cool, but the actual act of flying wasn't great.
I will say that I think the whole like moving the thrusters and all of that part I believe was added in the most recent VR update, which is for the PS5 or the PSVR 2. Those controllers have haptic feedback.
So that would be helpful.
So that would probably be why that was there. But I also remember that first time because I had it on PlayStation VR, the first one. So I got to see VR in like 720p or lower. I don't remember exactly what it is, but I agree. When you get that moment where you're on the planet and you're looking around, you're like, holy shit. Like this is like, it just feels like you're just standing in the middle of somewhere and you get into your ship and everything. And like, I don't know. Did you get to the point where you flew up into space? Are you talking about flying?
I flew into space. I went to the
space
station and everything.
Oh, okay. Beautiful. Dude, that when you get into space and you're looking around and you're like, dude, I'm in fucking space. Like space.
And actually, the feeling when you know how like you can go into a teleportal to warp from one of your set places to another? That felt really freaky too, because like you could look around while you were doing it. And if you looked behind you, there was one outside of the portal there, and in front of you was the other side of the portal. So you actually got the feeling that you were actually traveling. But like there were some places like when the game was loading in, because you know how when you load in, and this really confused me the first time I played the game, that was also meant to be part of my initial like first impressions. Like I had no idea what was going on when it just loads in and all the stars are flying towards you and you see the names of all the different systems around. So I was like, how do I go there? How do I go there? Because I didn't realize that was just a loading screen. But on that loading screen, because like I play VR just like standing up in my room, and like I was getting a little bit of vertigo, like looking around, like, oh god, like starting to get a little bit dizzy watching all those stars fly past.
Oh yeah, dude, I can imagine, especially like in good clarity, and then just going by.
Yeah,
like that's kind of like the whole like reading while you're driving thing. Your peripherals will fuck with you. Yeah, well, I'm glad you at least like got to experience that. I was very curious how it is now, so I'm glad to hear that it's kind of been updated since the last time I played it. And I do believe, and if I'm wrong on this, I do apologize, but I do believe that on the PS4, I went into the settings and set it to where it was just free motion.
It would have been better if I figured that out, but I wanted to get the experience and didn't feel like messing with the settings for very long because, messing with settings isn't fun.
Yeah. Unless you're me and you're trying to get games to work for your friends. And then it's like, yes, I will solve this.
Yeah.
All right, man. I mean, is there anything else anybody wants to touch on?
That covers it for me, unless one of y'all have something.
Yeah.
There was one other thing I wanted to bring up, which is just that the game still does have a lot of really noticeable jankiness and bugginess to it. Most notably, you cannot save your location when you join someone else's file in multiplayer. So your single player and multiplayer locations are often different. And if something happens to your single player one, it can cause some problems. Nate had an issue with a busted space station, for instance, that almost basically destroyed his file.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because like...
it's also possible to.
I was going to say,
go ahead with that one.
I saw something really cool in one of the star systems I was in. There was a planet with these enormous rings, and the space station was built into the rings of that planet. So, like, I was like, I need to see what this looks like from the inside, and I did. And it was just like really fuzzy and hard to see anything in, and it crashed the hell out of my game several times. And so, like, I was really worried I wasn't going to be able to get out of there in this file that I had a lot of progress on.
Yeah, and then I remember, was it your creative character? You just like landed in a tree?
I couldn't get him out.
Yeah,
he was in a tree, and it saved while I was in the tree in my ship, so I can't get out of there, period. Maybe I can load into another multiplayer and get out and play from there, but I don't care anymore about that file, because my single player actual file is good, but like, I was like, man, this sucks.
Yeah, and I learned on accident that and I think this would be good for, like, if you were playing with little kids. You know what I mean? If you wanted to, like, say you had, like, a nephew that wanted to play. You can load in. I accidentally loaded in my creative mode character in with you guys one time on your regular characters. And it worked fine. And I was like, oh, so I thought that was really cool. I think that also means that I could probably load in a permadeath one with you guys, but I would not trust you motherfuckers to not lure me to my death and be like, haha, fuck your character. Although, Nate, I know you're a Chivo hunter like I am. There are people who say that you can get to the center of the galaxy with the permadeath because you can just go find a portal If you could survive long enough to find a portal, you can get that achievement. Is what basically what they said. Anyway, my mind went blank again.
Well, was there anything else that you had that you wanted to bring up about the jankiness and stuff?
No, it just did. Oh, wait, I actually did have one other thing, which is just there's supposed to be a trade element as one of the 5 pillars of the game or whatever. I will say that buying and selling does not feel especially good compared to other spaceship games that involve trading as a huge element. Like, out of what you called the 5 pillars, I feel like selling stuff and buying upgrades feels good, but buying commodities to sell elsewhere it really
I do like the fact that this game does have an economy system. So, like, if you have a bunch of stuff you want to sell, it might sell poorly in one system, but if you go to a more affluent system, you might be able to sell it for more, get more money out of it.
Yeah, but because you have the ability to just teleport around instantly between places once you've visited the space station, it doesn't really feel as real as like the economy in games like Escape Velocity or Elite or other games that have a big trading element as part of their main gameplay loop.
I have an instance of jank I'd like to bring up, and you saying that triggered it back into my head. That's what I forgot. Me and Willie were doing some stuff,
I know this
and I had a certain type of ship, and Willie had a certain type of ship, and we both went through a portal on the same planet because we were on the same quest. So we both went through the portal, and when we both came out on the other side of the portal, both of our ships looked like Willie's ship. I went over to my ship, I checked it, it was still an S class, it still had all its shit. It looked just like Willie's ship. And to this day, still looks just like Willie's ship. If I load in the single player, it still looks just like Willie's ship. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? Because it was one of those that I had where it was like the sides came out and then they put out those wings that were like the lights, laser things. It looked super cool. And Willie's ship doesn't look bad, but I'm just like, what happened?
Thanks.
Yeah. A few other instances.
Is that your only ship?
No.
I don't know. I would say maybe try flying off in a different ship, fly away, and then that doesn't help.
You've done that. I've been using my living ship, and it hasn't helped at all.
Say a couple more instances of jank that I've noticed in the game is like with your settlement. Half of my settlement is underground, like under the actual ground of the game. It's not intentionally underground. So there's parts that I just can't get to because of the way it's programmed. And in a settlement, it won't let you mine. Like it says you can't do any terrain manipulation here, so I can't dig it out to be correct. So every time I use the landing pad and I get out, I'm underground. My character falls through the earth and then just warps back up on top of the ground. It's really bizarre, just jank as hell. So yeah, there's just a bunch of little jank issues that exist within the game.
Yeah. Hello Games, subsidiary of Bethesda. No, honestly, if this was a Bethesda, well, I guess we'll see how Bethesda handles space soon, huh? when the Starfield comes out.
I look forward to it, but I'm sure it's going to be a broken game.
Oh yeah, I look forward to it.
I just hope it's a fun.
And then I look forward to the fan patch. Yeah, exactly. All right, you want to move on to questions?
Let's throw up these fan questions real quick. Oh wait, ratings first.
Rating?
Oh no, goddamn, yeah, you're right.
Willie.
Thank you, Willie. No, Willie's on top of it,
so he can go first.
So, if you were going to give a rating, my good Sir Willie of the planet Druidia, what would you give?
Funny, I don't look Druish. Can't believe you tried to set up a Spaceballs reference.
So, what would you give this game?
I think I'm probably going to give this game the lowest score out of everyone here. And it's not because I think it was a bad game so much, but I think eventually you reach kind of the limit of what procedural generation can keep interesting. And eventually I feel like I'm running into random dice as planets instead of like interesting new places. I also think that the bugginess still hasn't been completely kicked out of it. I still think exploration was really fun. I think there's a lot of fun systems to it. I wish the combat didn't feel as trivial as it does, but like I think it has a lot of fun things that it explores in a very shallow way. And ultimately, I really like the ambition of the size of the universe, but I kind of wish there were more mechanics for any individual element of the game. And I'm gonna end up giving it a good recommendation. I would give this 7 larval cores out of 10 abominations.
7, got it.
I have heard people describe this game as a very vast puddle.
Yeah.
So I mean I can't disagree with that 100. Or so I can respect that.
Miles wide, inch deep. I get it. I mean, yeah.
All right. What about you, Jeff?
Well, I'll give 2 scores. For its initial release, based on the fact that this was just a bare bones game, but not the fact that it was terrible. I enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed it. I'll probably give it around a 7.5. But as the years progressed and watching this game evolve to what it's become now, just seeing everything that Hello Games has done to make this game better, and all for free. That's also very important as well. And every day, like I said, this game seems to go through small patches, just try to fix all those little bugs and jank. I would give this a 9. I love this game a lot. This is a top 10 for me. I think it's fantastic. Yes, are there still some problems? Sure. It's still a little bit boring at times. And there are some things I wish they would do. Like, one thing that we didn't touch on is that you can get freighters and you can get little frigates, which you can send off on missions. What I think would be fantastic is that be able to do like PvP freighter battles.
Massive.
And
scale.
one more thing, I have a complaint is even though this game feels like there's a lot of life to it, I still find it very empty because of the fact that where are the cities? Where's the civilization?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
All these aliens just seem to congregate on the space stations, and the planets are just barren. So,
or you'll find a little trade center on the planet with like.
So I would love to start seeing vast cities. Just like there is life in this galaxy.
Yeah.
I would definitely like to see them incorporate more types of ecosystems as far as more animals, even if they're still generated. Like, give me a herd of 100 of something instead of just like 20 of them in a random area. Like, I don't know. That's just me. So your final score?
Yes, my final score for this game is a 9.
All right. So what about you, Nate?
Yeah, I don't dabble in quarters too much, but for this game, I think I will. I agree with most of what Willie says. And I think the longer you play the game, the shallower it starts to feel, and the more you feel like you've seen it all in a game that's almost as infinitely big as it is. And I think that is a little bit of a bummer. Like, for reference, it's weird to give this game a score as low as I have for it being now the 5th most played game on Steam that I have. Like, I have over 70 hours into it now. But I ultimately think it's fun. The story was good enough. Like, I think it's lacking in some things too. Like, sound design isn't spectacular. Graphics are good. Gameplay is fine. There's, like Willie said, like, combat doesn't feel like much. Like, I never really felt too much in danger fighting pirates or anything like that. The only thing that ever felt dangerous was space battles with the Sentinels, because they were bullshit, because you really couldn't win those. So in the long run, for me, this game gets 7 3/4 planets out of stars. 10 stars.
Oh, I see what you did there. Well, yeah, all right. I can see that. I can see all of your points validly, right? Because obviously scores are subjective. So I'm going to go to Jeff route. When I first played this game, liked it, was very disappointed. I would probably give the release state of the game like a 6. It wasn't shit, but it was real close to being shit. But it was fun. It was fun to explore. Again, you guys know, like, when I play Skyrim, a lot of it that I do, I just roam around and go find stuff. Like, that's what I like to do. This is a whole game about that.
I would say it absolutely delivers that experience to a wonderful extent. Like, don't get me wrong, I still put 50 hours in this game and don't regret a second of that time. When I'm giving it 7 and calling it a weak recommendation, that's not because I think this game is bad. It's just because I don't know how much sticking power it has left for me.
And Jeff's point, like, we're talking about exploring open worlds and things, like, there are cities in Skyrim. There are tons of missions involving And I think that comes to the issue of procedural generation. Skyrim is a static world, and it's well thought out and programmed, where I think it's a lot harder to program a tomb into something like No Man's Sky, like when you get your experiences in Skyrim.
Yeah, absolutely. So my relationship with No Man's Sky has always been play it for religiously for like a week or two, and then I don't touch it for a long period of time, and then a new major update comes out, and I'm like, oh, let me go see what they added, and then I install it and I play it religiously for like a week or two, and I play the new update, and I didn't do that for a long time, and that was one of the reasons I picked it for the show, because I was like, dude, there have been several major updates that I haven't really delved into, because I would install it, I would play it for an hour or two, and then I would be like, man, I should be playing the game for the show, and I would get out of it, and then I just wouldn't play it anymore. So after sitting down and doing everything I wanted to do, I made it to the center. You know, I may have cheesed it a bit, but I made it to the center, goddammit. I saw what happened. I got my living ship. I went and did derelict freighters. I helped you guys get up and going, and neither of you rage quit. Win for me, right? Because this game absolutely can present some times where if you're getting frustrated and overwhelmed and then something just happens, it's just like, I could see it happening to anyone, not just you guys, just to anybody. So I was very happy that didn't happen. But just my rating is going to be influenced by the fun times that I had playing with you guys, even when we weren't doing shit together and we were just on mic bullshitting while we were playing.
Yeah.
So the state of the game that it's in now, I'm going to give it an 8.5. Strictly for it's a great game to load in with your buddies and kill some fucking hours. It's real easy to be like, oh shit, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. That happened to us more than once. You know what I'm saying? And
I'd be happy to get back in this game and bullshit around sometime soon. Like it was fun as hell.
And that's the thing is like, it may be a puddle, but splashing around in a puddle with your friends is always a good time. You know? So I'm going to give it an 8.5 Gex out of 10 Viking. And that's because the Korbacks are unmeasurable. They're my boys. No Man's Sky, great game. Fan
questions.
Let's
roll into those. All right.
I have a fan question here from Willie. FMK, Gek, Viking, and Korbacks.
Okay. I can start that one. We're going to fuck the Viking because, man, you know what you're getting. It's going to be a firecracker.
Get that orc dick.
Do you remember that ending I got from Monster Prom where I got half of my bones broken, but I had a great time? That's what I'm imagining here. I think you're going to give the same answer I was thinking exactly for the same reason.
It's going to be very logical, well put together sound. You're never going to have to worry about being taken care of because they have the logical and capacity and ability to do it. You kill the Gek because there's some real motherfuckers.
I feel like they're hard to trust because they put on such a happy face. Yeah, that's fine, Jeff. I don't know why I said that.
Jeff was trying to be a quiet and sneaky boy about it, and Willie's like, "Yeah, Jeff."
I'm not.
Jeff! Yes, Jeff, you can take your pants off.
Okay, Paul, thank you. It's freaking hot in there.
But I would also agree, though, 100%. I'm going to marry the Korbacks.
Yep.
Because, I mean, really, that's like being married to, like, millions of people. So, really, you're never going to get bored. I'm going to fuck the Viking. Space Orc thing all the way. And I'm gonna kill the Gek because, like, who can trust those little guys?
One thing I do find very weird about this game as well. In this game with futuristic thing, there is absolutely zero female representation.
There's zero gendered representation. Every single sentient character is referred to as they and them.
They're all designed to look like dudes.
Yeah. So. Even ones with... yeah, I mean, kind of. But or robots or other things. But yeah, that's true. But like even characters with very female-sounding names like Artemis are referred to as they, them. Yeah. I think the only pronouns used in the game are they, I, it, and
I think
you.
what Nate's getting at is that there's no titties in this game.
Nate's mad he didn't get any rockin' Viking titties. Now he's trying to spin it as being woke. Get out of here, Nate.
The lusty Viking maid, come on.
The lusty Viking maid.
Oh my goodness.
That is this podcast was made for this moment. We can all retire now.
So quickly, there's a quick question that I can answer, and we can knock it out of the way. Dane wanted to know, what's a more reasonable goal? Visit all the worlds of No Man's Sky, or play every game in your Steam library to end credits? Now, I'm going to answer that with a statistic for you, Dane, at least from me. There are over 18 quintillion planets. If you were Superman and you could make it to one planet every second, it would take you 5 billion years to land on every planet. I think it would only take about 1.5 billion to beat all the games in my Steam library to the end. So I'm thinking that I'm going to go Steam library. I don't
Steam
know
library for sure. Mine's smaller than Dalton's. That's what he said.
Oh. Cue the level down noise in Final Fantasy 11.
All right. So, in interest of time for Jeff, I want to throw one more question, and then we'll let Jeff head out. So, the one that I think is most interesting for Jeff came in from Master Loot. What is a game that you would give a completed rating? And to me, that means a game that you would go all out and recommend 100%ing.
Ooh, man.
That is exactly the opposite of how I read that question, which is I thought it was more along the lines of finish the game. You won't necessarily enjoy it, but you should finish it.
The reason I thought it was 100%,
but you're saying complete, like
that's
completion.
Kind of. There's a guy on YouTube called The Completionist, and he gives the completed rating at the end, which is 100%ing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I missed that reference.
Play it, finish it, complete it. Is his ranking, I think.
Yeah.
Man, I don't, as much as I love Persona 5, I can't recommend completing that game to everyone.
I'll say the same thing about Dragon Quest 11. I would not recommend completing that to everybody.
I don't have an answer. I don't know.
I thought that would be easier.
Well, because
I think I'm torn between two, and it's just because the stories in them that you can find are so good for different reasons. So one, I'm going to say Skyrim.
All right.
Or Oblivion, just the Elder Scrolls games in general. Like, they're worth completing just to see everything that they have to offer, because the worlds are really cool to find all the little nooks and crannies and things in. And I'm 900 hours into Skyrim, and I do not have 100% completion in it yet. I'm getting there, but the other one is The Witcher 3.
I'll say Red Dead Redemption 2.
The story's so good.
Yeah.
Red Dead 2.
Yeah.
Red Dead 2? That makes sense. Mine's going to be a little bit of an unusual one because it's not even necessarily one that I would have always just said, this game you have to play. But I think if you wanted to play this game, it's one of the first games I just wanted to do all the achievements for because that felt more fun than just beating it. That's Scribblenauts Unlimited, which it took me 13 hours to finish 100% completion on. And I had a great time because it lets you get really creative with the solutions.
For me, my answer is Super Mario Galaxy 2. I just think it has
that's a good
setup of like when you get the 120 stars, here's the green ones, have some more fun. And it just adds so many different little elements to it. I think that the adventure of getting all the stars in that game is super fun and rewarding.
No, yeah. And then one other one I want to answer real quick because it's quickly answerable. From Eraser Adam, does No Man's Sky have an actual ending? To the story? Yes. To the gameplay?
I don't think so.
Don't think so.
It never rolls credits either.
I think
you beat the game, there's no credit scene. It just pops you right back into the next galaxy. So
basically, it resets itself.
Yeah,
in a sense. So that is No Man's Sky. We'll save the other questions for the next episode, and we'll let Jeff get out of here. So if you would like,
want to know the game we were playing next.
Yeah. What's the next game?
Oh my god! Thank you.
Y'all are just trying to skip over half the format of the podcast.
Apparently, and I even pulled up the notes.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah. What is our next game? And it's Nate's choice. So I'm actually.
So I was really debating between 3 games, then 4 games, then 3 games again, then 2 games. And I think I finally nailed it down. So one of the games that I was thinking about doing was going to be one that I wanted us 3 to all play together and do the story and beat through that way. But I decided since we had so much multiplayer in this one that I was going to kind of move away from that one. So we'll save Terraria for another time. Another one was a horror game that I thought would be really good because I keep saying I want to play a good horror game for this podcast, but I'm not going in that direction this time either. And the other one I think would be a game that became an obsession of mine that I might play way too much and take a lot of my time away, but I'm going to save that one too. The other one I think has potential to be one of my favorite games that I've never played. So I'm thinking this one might be one that really has a lot of potential for me to be one of my favorite games. Dalton, maybe not so much you, but...
Oh, I think I know where we're going.
We are going to play
finally time.
Ori and the Blind Forest.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm down. I really enjoy the art style of Ori, so I might like that more than you think.
It looks beautiful. If the gameplay matches the art style for that, that's going to be a killer game for me.
All right.
Hey, baby, does the gameplay match the art style?
Jesus Christ. On that note, so then that means we'll be back in 2 weeks with Ori and the Blind Forest, and I guess that just leaves house cleaning?
Yep.
All right, now I can run through this? All right, now I'm going to get into the... All right, if you would please do us a favor and go leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to our show, but specifically on iTunes, that would be sweet. Also, give us a positive review on Spotify. If you would like to join the Discord, which I don't even plug the other social medias anymore because it's like... Come join the Discord. That's where it's happening. bit.ly/TSMP Discord, all capital letters. That'll give you an invite link, and you can just click accept, and boom, you are in. If you want to check out the website, which is now up to date, thanks to one Mr. Puzzles Dane. Thank you very much. bit.ly/The Steam Machine Podcast. If you want to check out the Patreon and donate to the show, that would mean a hell of a lot to me because, especially right now, I have some vet bills that I'm having to pay off. So if you would like to donate, that would mean a lot. Patreon.com/The Steam Machine Podcast. And if you donate $10 or more, you can get a shout out on each and every week, each and every episode, like these wonderful people. Nate Sir Cogsworth, the 7th of Juniper, Jeff, the original expendable, Mr. Syllables, old Jeffy Loop himself, the grumpy one, Arisa Adam, shout out to his podcast, Revival and Extinction, James, the Steam Machine, Hall, Wanted a Hall, Team Retrogue, go check him out on YouTube, and Mr. Puzzles, Dane himself.
What a gang of good kids. Except the first two, you said. Those guys suck.
Yeah.
What, Nate and Jeff? Yeah, fuck those guys.
Fuck them.
Yeah, but they're cute, though.
If you would like to get a shirt, you can check us out at tsmpproductions.threadless.com, where not only you can find Steam Machine podcast shirts, you can also find Yabs Pod shirts, Grumpy Jeff Pro Wrestling shirts, and I believe some Now of the Nightmare stuff as well. Shout out to Yabs Pod, yet another BS podcast. Shout out to the JRPG Report. Those are the other two shows that I do. One is very family friendly. One is very not family friendly. I'm going to let you figure out which one's which. If you like the music, nowthenightmare.bandcamp.com. If you like the show music, that is where you can find some of my stuff. And is there anything that any of you gentlemen would like to plug or say before we roll out of this bitch? Alrighty. Well, then on that note, for the Brothers of Destruction, Destructo Bros, and thank you to one Grumpy Jeff himself for joining us on this episode. And we will catch you in 2 weeks with Ori and the Blind Forest. And as always, guys, take it easy.